He had been flying over the rooftops for a while but didn't see anyone, making him suspicious. Strange, where have all the guards gone? Suddenly, Chen-hai appeared behind him, asking sternly, "What are you doing here so late at night? Don't think just because you have a connection with His Majesty, you can do as you please." Li Wan cheerfully turned around. "Good evening." Chen-hai, furious, growled, "Let go." Li Wan, now serious, said, "I heard some things about remnants of the former dynasty from a certain Huang family member." Hearing this, Chen-hai was startled, his face turning pale. "What?" The two moved to a different location to continue their conversation, standing in a palace hallway. After hearing everything Li Wan said, Chen-hai asked, "According to what you said, there are people in the capital connected to the remnants of the former dynasty. Even if that's true, how do we investigate?" Li Wan casually said, "Just investigate which aristocratic family has suddenly had an unusual increase in resources over the past year." Chen-hai pondered, "We've already thought of that, but they're very skilled at falsifying records." Li Wan, using his knowledge, responded confidently, "Don't worry. As long as we can track the direction of the money flow, we can deduce who's manipulating the market. In Great Land, the ones who exploit the people the most are the most suspicious. This is what we call economic theory." Chen-hai remarked dryly, "No wonder you're a rebel." Li Wan chuckled, "You don't need to worry, I'm the good guy here." Chen-hai, clearly fed up, shot back, "If you hadn't used your charm on the Empress, I would have cut you down by now." Li Wan retorted, "We're just in a free-spirited romance, don't be like that." Chen-hai was too tired to argue and led the way. As he walked, he pondered, the method he mentioned could really throw Great Land into chaos. This guy's got some brains, but it's a shame he's a rebel. Li Wan followed behind, feeling lighthearted. Chen-hai couldn't help but think, why do I still want to take him down? Come on, Chen-hai, don't make that face. Honestly, I want to have a better relationship with you, Li Wan said with a grin. Shut up. This is the palace, you need to mind your manners, Chen-hai snapped back. I understand. I'm a very polite person, Li Wan replied, though he secretly mused, I always respect the rules. Chen-hai led Li Wan to a building within the palace and pointed to a pile of ledgers. This is the place, all the trade records of Great Land are kept here. Li Wan stepped forward. Let's split up and search. They both began combing through the records on different shelves. Li Wan pulled out a ledger and read, on January 1st, the Huang family quietly transported an item to the residence for Madame Huang, a head of a spirit beast. He turned to Chen-hai and asked, is this recorded in your logs too? Chen-hai, slightly embarrassed, covered his face and cleared his throat. It's for the protection of the capital, for the sake of Great Land. Li Wan put the ledger back and grabbed another one. If Mr. Jia had documented, then there must be other things they haven't let go of. He continued, let's check the family I find most suspicious. Looking at the records, he said, the Hua family, I was right to be suspicious of them. Chen-hai asked, you suspected them from the start, how did you figure that out? He thought to himself, I didn't expect the gap between us to be this big, I'm always a step behind in my deductions. Li Wan replied, they not only gave the least gifts, but I also know they're aware I'm reminding them to cough up a bit. Yet they still dared to hold back. I want to communicate with them a bit. Chen-hai stopped him. Wait, they are still part of the court, you need evidence. Li Wan turned around and asked, isn't this enough? Even without solid proof, I still have to go have a chat with them. Chen-hai replied, if they really are colluding with the remnants of the previous dynasty, you could strike first and report later, and their assets could be confiscated. Li Wan raised his hand in a got it gesture. Alright, the Hua family certainly has an imposing entrance. Li Wan didn't hesitate to kick the door open, expecting to see a bunch of heads, but instead was met with a sea of beautiful women. The women approached eagerly, calling out, Master Leader. Li Wan was taken aback, thinking, huh? What's going on here? Confused, he looked across at Mr. Hua, who was smiling as if he had been waiting. To Li Wan's shock, Mr. Hua knelt and said, the leader of the righteous army truly brings great honor to everyone in the Hua residence. Li Wan kicked at him, saying, damn it, get up. What's with the kneeling? Are you trying to frame me? Mr. Hua stood up and, looking at the young women, said, you see, these are all my concubines. If the leader wishes to take any of them, you may. Li Wan rolled his eyes and grabbed the collar of Mr. Hua's robe. You old man, are you probing me? Do you think I'd hesitate to wipe out your entire family? Mr. Hua panicked. Please, Master Leader, calm down. He then ordered the concubines, all of you, leave. Turning back to Li Wan with a smile, he continued, please, don't be angry. I was indeed probing you. The Hua's family is willing to pay a price for this, just follow me. He led Li Wan to a room filled with chests of gold and silver. These are the contributions of the Hua family to the national treasury. Li Wan scratched his chin thoughtfully. So that's it. The Hua family isn't giving fewer gifts because they want to spend less, but rather because they aim to give more in the long run. The real goal is to bring me here. He looked at Mr. Hua and said bluntly, cut the nonsense and tell me your intentions. Mr. Hua clasped his hands together, replying, we just want to survive. When you and Her Majesty appeared together, I knew the tide had turned. We simply want to get by, and if we can live a bit better during this time, all the better. Li Wan pressed on, that doesn't count. You have to heed the Emperor's wishes. And one more thing, have the remnants of the previous dynasty approached you? Mr. Hua answered honestly, yes, they have indeed sent people to contact us, but we are not like the Huang family. We just want to get by, we have no ambitions for power. Initially, we planned to deal with that person directly, but he was too powerful, and he managed to escape. Li Wan asked, then what's the deal with the Hua family's sudden increase in wealth over the past year? Mr. Hua laughed heartily and said, they even looked for our subordinates' family, thinking they could trick them into handing over supplies. Didn't all that end up in the national treasury? Li Wan gave him a thumbs up, you've got the right mindset. Mr. Hua sighed, but I truly didn't expect the leader to use this method to enter the capital, it really shows deep insight. I'm still far behind. Li Wan turned away, thinking, can I say I know nothing about this? But he smiled, patted Mr. Hua on the shoulder, and said, you did great, I'll praise you in front of Ru Li. Mr. Hua clasped his hands and said, thank you, leader. But I still want to add, your existence is not just that of a powerful warrior to the great land, but also the greatest in history. It's inevitable that some will harbor resentment. Hearing this, Li Wan replied, the greatest in history? I failed my rebellion, are we really going to talk about me marrying the emperor? Once home, sitting on the bed, Li Wan pondered, the noble families in the capital have basically settled down. After all, the top tier has weakened. Looking at Cho Ru Li sleeping peacefully on the bed, he breathed a sigh of relief. If Ru Li and I attend the morning court together, maybe they won't say anything. At that moment, Cho Ru Li opened her eyes and sat up, asking, did you just come back? Li Wan replied candidly, I had some free time with nothing to do, so I strolled around the world, making friends and chatting a bit. Cho Ru Li hugged him from behind, saying, you don't need to do this. You are my husband, regardless of your other identity. Seeing her like this, Li Wan thought, wife, do you even know how adorable you are right now? You must be dreaming, you don't usually say things like this. He stroked her face and said, all right, let's not worry about that anymore. Let's sleep. She playfully pouted, kiss me. Li Wan looked at her lips and teased, is this really my wife? With you acting like this, how can I even think about sleeping? He leaned down and shared a deep kiss. Cho Ru Li added, I like you. Li Wan murmured while kissing, of course, I know. Li Wan gently pushed Cho Ru Li back onto the bed. She said, you can't leave me. He replied, okay. With her alluring figure, curves barely concealed, and a loving expression, she asked, forever. Li Wan answered, until the end of time. Cho Ru Li touched his face and warned, if you look for another woman, you'll regret it. Li Wan responded with a hum, then realized something. What did you say? In the early morning, Cho Ru Li stretched her back and looked at Li Wan, who was sitting there looking weary. She asked, why do you look so tired? Did you not sleep well last night? Li Wan lifted his dark-rimmed eyes and replied, it's nothing, it's just that you were sleepwalking last night and talking a lot in your sleep. He thought to himself, I couldn't sleep all night, worried someone might ambush me. Cho Ru Li raised an eyebrow, what did I say? Li Wan chuckled, you praised how great I am, then asked me to kiss and hug you. Cho Ru Li blushed, did I really say such things? Am I the kind of girl who talks like that? She turned away, I'm not that type of woman. I'm going to court now. Li Wan watched her retreating figure, thinking, even if it was vague, it was really adorable, but my heart can't take it. Outside their door, Chen Hai was already waiting. He thought, I've been on guard all night, the emperor will surely be pleased. As Cho Ru Li stepped out, Chen Hai clasped his hands and said, Your Majesty. She blushed deeper, wondering, did I really say those things? Maybe Li Wan is tricking me. No, he wouldn't do that. Chen Hai, observing his emperor's demeanor, gritted his teeth and thought, what has that scoundrel Li Wan done to the emperor? In the court hall, several ministers were standing. Mr. Hua stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, regarding the matters of the previous dynasty, I believe we must handle them immediately. I remember that the former emperor and the rebel forces were on the verge of stopping the war, but because someone was secretly provoking tensions, the conflict escalated. Cho Ru Li responded, I've heard about this. Could it really be that they were plotting something? Mr. Hua continued, That's exactly it. This morning, intelligence from the borders confirmed this, with evidence to support it. Furthermore, a well on the border was destroyed, which is attributed to the remnants of the previous dynasty. Additionally, there are numerous seditious documents being circulated at the borders, all bearing the handwriting of the remnants of the previous dynasty. Zhou Ruli asked, "What kind of documents?" Mr. Hua lowered his head. "They are writings from the former ruler." Upon hearing this, Zhou Ruli thought, Li Wan wrote those? Using his own writings against the empire he's a part of? In another place, Li Wan was leisurely sitting in a room, sipping tea. Just as he took a sip, a book slammed down on the table. Zhou Ruli crossed her arms and said, "You idiot, take a look at what you've done in the past." Startled, Li Wan thought, "What? I haven't done anything wrong." He picked up the book to read and exclaimed, "So this is the book I wrote before the rebellion? What happened?" Zhou Ruli replied with annoyance, "Those remnants of the previous dynasty are using this as their propaganda." Li Wan tried to reassure her, "Don't worry, this isn't a big deal. A rebellion relies on timing, favorable conditions, and popular support. Right now, the people are settled and well fed, they won't be inclined to rise up. At that time, I'll just have to grab weapons with you." He then added, "A wise empress like you should see that even clearer than I do." Zhou Ruli gave a small in response. Li Wan praised her, saying, "My wife is definitely clever and has already thought this through." Zhou Ruli retorted, "Stop with the flattery, you know I don't like hearing things like that. It sounds so fake." Li Wan chuckled, "Well, it's different outside and inside. At home, things should match our roles." Zhou Ruli's face turned as red as a tomato, but Li Wan didn't notice and continued, "For example, last night when you leaned against me. If we were any more distant, I'm afraid you wouldn't have made it to morning court today." Then, as expected, he received a sharp smack that stung. Zhou Ruli said, "But they're using things that you initially used?" Li Wan took her hand and reassured her, "Don't worry, as long as I'm here, nothing will happen. They likely want to use these things to gain support from the people at the border of the Great Land, and then start a rebellion." Zhou Ruli said, "I remember you had some dealings with the southern barbarians at the beginning." Li Wan replied, "That's true, but it wasn't anything major." He recounted, "Back then, a few cultivators nearly turned against the southern barbarians. Thankfully, I managed to defeat them in the end. The southern barbarians used their inflated titles, they really liked to send me off." Zhou Ruli listened intently, considering the implications of their past encounters. Zhou Ruli asked, "What's the name of that tribe? Where do they rank in the Southern Barbarians Alliance?" Li Wan shrugged, "Just a small tribe, there's no way they could be part of the alliance. I think the tribe is called the Black Armored." Meanwhile, in another location, bodies were strewn everywhere. One man, wearing a skull as a helmet, stepped on the face of a chubby guy lying on the ground. He thought, "What terrible luck. That guy was cursing while looking to raid a small tribe for some women to play with, and now he runs into this bunch of monsters?" The man had a tattoo marking him as part of the Wild Dog Free Alliance, a legendary faction from the Black Armored tribe. A soldier following behind him grabbed a dead body and asked, "Are they the fire spirits?" The leader scoffed, "Are you stupid? Fire spirits are just burning rocks. They're people, not stones." The subordinate clutched his head and said, "So when will Captain T return?" He clearly said that once the fire spirits stabbed the earth, he would come back. "But we're undefeated in the southern barbarians and still haven't seen any fire spirits." After that, the man welcomed the slap from the leader. The leader scolded, "You fool." The man who was slapped refused to back down, standing up and saying, "I'm not stupid. The chieftain said our intelligence is at least above 30, and that we're rare individuals in this world." The leader looked at them and said, "You foolish brothers, I have a feeling something has happened to the chieftain." A tall man asked the leader, "Big brother Wu Chuk, what do you mean by that?" Wu Chuk took out something resembling a turtle shell and said, "This is my divination tool. Let me cast a fortune and see what's happening with the chieftain." He hugged the turtle shell, sat on the ground, shook it, and began to cast the fortune. 3 tusks fell out. One of the men asked, "Wu Chuk, what does it say?" Wu Chuk's expression grew serious. "This is not good. The chieftain has encountered the Empress of the Great Land, he's definitely in danger. We need to head to the Alliance Mountain and find those remnants of the previous dynasty to help us reach the Great Land and rescue the chieftain." Meanwhile, Li Wan suddenly felt a sense of unease, thinking, "Why do I have a bad feeling? Things should have been resolved by now." At that moment, Li Zuj ran in and asked, "Sir? Aren't you with Sister Ru Li?" Li Wan, sitting in the chair, replied, "Ru Li is taking a nap. I actually have something I want to discuss with you." Li Zuj curiously asked, "What is it? Is there new food?" Li Wan responded seriously, "It's not about food. It's about the Li family being exterminated. I have a clue. There are connections between the rebels and the remnants of the previous dynasty. They're facing each other." He continued, The extermination of the Li family is very likely the work of this person. They have ties to the rebels and also to me. Li Zuj laughed and said, Master, you don't need to blame yourself. This isn't your fault, and you didn't do anything. But why would the rebels target our Li family? Li Wan replied, I don't have any clues on that. I'll make a trip to the southern barbarians later, not only for revenge but also to uncover the truth. Just then, Chen Hai burst through the door, shouting, Where is His Majesty? Where is she? Li Wan said, She's resting in her room. What happened? Chen Hai replied, The border has reported that the southern barbarians have allied with the remnants of the previous dynasty and have breached several border towns. We need the emperor to decide whether to retreat and defend or to launch a counterattack. Li Wan responded, Let Ru Li rest, I'll handle this minor issue. Chen Hai refused, saying, You handling it? A reckless man like you absolutely cannot. Li Wan pulled out an Imperial token and said, Your Empress gave me the authority to make decisions. Seeing the token, Chen Hai was stunned and thought, The Empress's token. She actually entrusted it to him. Li Wan reassured him, Relax, I've memorized Romance of the Three Kingdoms by heart. Chen Hai, still confused, asked, Romance of the Three Kingdoms? What does that have to do with this? Li Wan patted Chen Hai on the shoulder and said, Little Chen, no need to worry. I've memorized both Water Margin and Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Making decisions for you all is as easy as flipping my hand. Chen Hai, still confused, thought, What on earth is Flying Flame talking about? As they walked toward the study, Li Wan asked, Little Chen, you don't think I'm just acting on a sudden whim, do you? Chen Hai, walking ahead, responded, Could there be more to it? Li Wan laughed, I just think there's no need for you to be so anxious. He explained, We live in the small alleys and can hear the voices of the people. Even though Ru Li governs well, not everyone is satisfied. Chen Hai asked, Who dares to be so bold? I'll round them all up immediately. Li Wan quickly replied, If you really do that, it'll only make things harder for Ru Li. People say the Huang clan is heartless, but Ru Li is someone with feelings, which makes it hard for people to fully respect her. Chen Hai was puzzled. What do you mean? With a serious tone, Li Wan explained, What I need to do is support her, so leave the investigation to me and rest easy. Then he smiled and asked, Little Chen, do you know what kneeling and licking means? Chen Hai looked him was holding a pen beside. Li Wan thought, I could already smell the scent of my wife. Is this really where the Empress works every day? Chen Hai stood next to him, doubtful. Do you really know how to approve memorials? Li Wan twirled the pen. Approving memorials? You're underestimating me. Looking at the pile of memorials, he thought to himself, so many memorials, no wonder so many emperors have worked themselves to death. He picked one up and asked, praising the sages and building temples? Whose memorial is this? Chen Hai replied, It's the memorial from the Minister of Rights. Previously, the treasury had already spent quite a bit, but they still seem to think it's not enough. If Her Majesty doesn't agree, they secretly criticize her, saying that as a woman on the throne, she doesn't follow the words of the sages. Li Wan cursed, Damn them all. Chen Hai, unusually in agreement, said, Well said. Watching Li Wan lower the brush to write, Chen Hai suddenly blurted out, Wait, you're not really going to write that directly on the memorial, are you? Li Wan replied, They're bullying my wife, and you think I shouldn't curse them? Building so many temples. This guy is clearly just looking to pocket a commission. With that, he dipped the brush in ink and wrote on the memorial, Recommend execution. Chen Hai, seeing this, asked, Although it feels satisfying to write that, do you really intend to have them executed? In his mind, execution meant stabbing them with a spear. Li Wan ordered, Investigate how much the Minister of Rights has embezzled, then punish him according to the crime. Chen Hai, perplexed, responded, You've already sentenced him to death without even investigating. This is so reckless. The Empress would never act like this. Li Wan replied, Why not? Chen Hai explained, This type of person surely has many allies. If you use too much force? Li Wan, displeased, said, Are you telling me they dare to rebel? Do I need to personally teach them a lesson? Don't worry, from now on, no one will dare to insult your Empress, my wife. Chen Hai thought to himself as he heard him speak, Damn, why does he want to emphasize your Majesty, my wife? Holding the list and giving it to his subordinate, Chen Hai ordered, Investigate everyone on this list, even if they have no crimes, find something to charge them with. The subordinate trembled as he replied, Yes, sir. Li Wan held the pen and said, Next is handling the border situation. A false army, a false path. Chen Hai observed and remarked, as expected of a rebel leader. Even commanding troops on paper, the aura is terrifying, as if he could face a massive army. As the evening shadows fell, Li Wan stretched and sighed, finally done. Based on my arrangements, the enemy will have a hard time doing anything. If it still doesn't work, I'll go myself. As the evening shadows fell, Li Wan stretched and sighed, finally done. Based on my arrangements, the enemy will have a hard time doing anything. If it still doesn't work, I'll go myself. At that moment, the door was pushed open, and Cho Ru Li walked in, thinking to herself, in just one morning, he has arrested the Minister of Rights, and no one in the capital dares to say anything. What has this flying flame done? Seeing her, Li Wan asked, isn't being the emperor exhausting? Aren't you afraid of working yourself to death? Cho Ru Li crossed her arms and replied, of course I pay attention to resting. But what exactly have you done? Everyone outside is praising me right now. Li Wan laughed, it's only natural to be praised for doing good. Who told them to badmouth you behind your back? Cho Ru Li snorted, since you've done so well, I might as well promote you. Li Wan immediately declined, no, I won't do that anymore. Cho Ru Li turned away, thinking to herself, that's hard to achieve. She turned back to Li Wan and said, some people take advantage of you, and the outcomes aren't your responsibility. But there are still those who push the blame onto you. I need to give you enough trust. Li Wan replied, it's fine, as long as you understand, I don't care what others say. Besides, isn't my credibility already enough? Cho Ru Li chimed in, yes, you're the unrivaled champion of the world. Li Wan corrected her, it should be said that I'm beneath one person. Cho Ru Li continued, so that means the unrivaled champion of the world is me. Li Wan replied, if my wife says it's the best, then it must be the best, who would dare to disagree? Cho Ru Li sighed, am I just borrowing the tiger's might? I'd rather abdicate. Li Wan quickly apologized, no, I see my mistake now. Cho Ru Li continued, you fool, what I mean is that you don't need to put so much pressure on yourself, nor should you bear the responsibility. I'm the emperor, making you happy is my duty. Li Wan looked at her and smiled, so I'm being supported by you now? I have to obediently listen. Meanwhile, in another part of the grand hall, a group of people fanning themselves was engaged in conversation when suddenly one person was thrown out of a window. Everyone turned to look at the one who had been knocked down. A young woman dressed lightly stood on the windowsill, arms crossed, and scoffed, you think you can take me down with that little needle of yours? Do you think I'm easy to mess with? The young woman introduced herself as Jang Nan, a disciple of the Jade Maiden Pavilion, known in the martial world as the Water Fire Seer. She said, you must be curious about why I'm here. It all goes back to a year ago. That day, I accidentally discovered my master keeping a forbidden ledger, so I advised her a bit. At that moment, I covered my mouth and told my master, if that place hasn't been disturbed yet, why even look at a book like this? After that, as expected, I was kicked out the door. Then, I was expelled from my sect. I wandered for a while, and a few days ago I finally reached the capital, but unfortunately, I had spent all my money. However, a kind middle-aged woman was willing to offer me a job. So I gladly accepted. At that time, the chubby matron remarked, Miss, I see you have great ambitions. As long as you develop well, you'll definitely surpass Hualien in the future. In the present, the matron looked at Jang Nan and scolded, have you lost your mind? This is the capital of the nobility. Our Red Star House is finished because of you. Jang Nan shrugged it off. Those who cause trouble must bear the consequences. The matron asked, how are you willing to come here and apologize? Jang Nan yelled at the matron, this is all you're doing, it has nothing to do with me. If you hadn't brought me back, they wouldn't have wanted to mess with me. How could I have ruined them? The matron, stunned by the shout, called out, quick, summon the authorities. Don't let this girl escape. Members of the six-door agency chased after Jang Nan down the main street, catching up to her. As she ran, Jang Nan thought, this is the capital, how can everyone run so fast? Do you all just run around all day? Around a corner. She thought, who are these two blocking my way? She shouted, you two, get out of my way. But as she focused again, she realized it was only Cho Ru Li left. Surprised, she thought, huh? Why is there only one person? Then, she was knocked out. Li Wan appeared from behind, saying, you're really unlucky to run into me. He glanced at the jade pendant shaped like a fish at her waist. Li Wan pondered, what is this? After that, he took the unconscious Jang Nan back to his place and picked up a piece of paper to read. Li Wan sighed, how ruthless, they directly crippled those young scions of noble families. She's a top disciple of the Jade Maiden Pavilion, yet she was expelled from her sect. The information on the Jade Maiden Pavilion's top disciples. The martial world and the royal family keep such meticulous records. He looked at her and wondered, but why is this on her? Cho Ru Li smiled at Li Wan and asked, what are you staring at so intently? Li Wan replied immediately, if you hadn't mentioned it, I would have thought she was a man disguised as a woman. Cho Ru-li laughed. Really? Li Wan thought to himself, that was close, I almost fell for it. Thankfully, I reacted quickly. He said to Cho Ru-li, what caught my attention is the rebel insignia on her. Cho Ru-li asked, rebel insignia? Li Wan held up the fish-shaped jade pendant for Cho Ru-li to see. This is it. This is the item our rebels use to confirm each other's identities. Cho Ru-li asked, using this can confirm identities? Li Wan replied, exactly, but this one is different from the kind I've used before. It might have been created recently. At that moment, Yu Yang then had regained consciousness. She sat up, wincing in pain, and exclaimed, oh no, I'm in so much pain. She wondered, what happened? Why was I knocked out? Then she saw the jade pendant in Li Wan's hand and shouted, my pendant. She reached out to snatch it back. Give it back to me, this is the gift my master gave me. Li Wan's demeanor turned fierce as he stared at her, demanding, be honest, where did you get this pendant? Yu Yang then felt a wave of fear wash over her, thinking, he has a terrifying presence. He must be a master. She considered, what should I do now? I'll have to use my identity as a top disciple of the Jade Maiden Pavilion to scare him. But then she changed her mind, kneeling on the ground and bowing her head, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I'll listen to whatever you say. Please spare my life. She thought to herself, upon careful reflection, I've been expelled from my sect, haven't I? Li Wan was confused, what are you thinking? I just want you to tell me where this jade pendant came from. He thought, this kneeling posture, why does it remind me of Li Zuj? At that moment, Li Zuj entered and saw Yu Yang then on the ground. She exclaimed, huh? Isn't this little Tien? What are you doing here? Li Wan turned to Li Zuj and asked, do you know this person? How are you two related? Li Zuj explained, half a year ago, when I was wandering, I met her. Don't be fooled by her reckless behavior, we learned a lot from each other. Both Cho Ru-li and Li Wan thought simultaneously, you mean you learned to be reckless? Seeing Li Suej, Yu Yang then exclaimed, so you two are friends with Li Suej, we're all part of the same family. I thought I was finally going to become a woman. Li Wan could only sigh, thinking, this girl really is a fitting friend for Li Suej. Yu Yang then recounted, this jade pendant is from a year ago. At that time, someone came to see my master. Before they left this pendant behind. Then my master gave it to me. Li Wan pressed on, who was the person? Do you remember? Yu Yang then replied with annoyance, how could I possibly know them? She recalled, there was a rough-looking guy, a blind man, and at the front was a guy wearing a hat. The Jade Maiden Pavilion doesn't allow men to enter, but these three must have practiced some kind of divine technique because with just one move, they flattened an entire area. She recalled, seemingly disgusted, that was an act of intimidation, as if they were saying, you are the fish, and I am the knife. I still remember what he said back then. He said, as the leader of the rebels, I can tell you that the rebellion will definitely disband because he will leave soon, and we will take over all the power he leaves behind. A new dynasty is coming. Hearing Yu Yang then's account, Li Wan's expression darkened as he thought, they've been plotting for so long just for this so-called new dynasty. Meanwhile, Yu Yang then whispered to Li Zuj, Zuj, who exactly is this master of the house? His aura is so powerful. Is he going to lose control and turn beastly with me? Li Zuj replied, Mr. Host is the legendary leader of the rebels. You don't need to worry. Compared to you, Ru-li is far more beautiful. Yu Yang then's eyes widened when she heard who he was, thinking, I surely didn't say anything too embarrassing before, did I? Li Wan raised the jade pendant shaped like a fish and asked Yu Yang then, do you know what this pendant is for? Yu Yang then replied seriously, cough. My master told me it's used for protection, but didn't say anything more. Li Wan pondered, protection? How could this token offer protection? Besides, after so many years with comrades, there are still traitors. I really don't know if I deserve to be the leader, this feels like a failure. Cho Ru-li looked at him and smiled, saying, how can you call it a failure? This has nothing to do with you. It's the fault of your subordinates, they've been negligent. Hearing her comforting words, Li Wan asked, are you trying to comfort me? But it actually makes sense. Cho Ru-li crossed her arms and huffed, you want to be hit, don't you? How can I comfort a fool like you? My man can't be looked down upon by others. Otherwise, I won't stand for it, and that includes not letting you look down on yourself. As they were talking, a loud firecracker suddenly exploded in the sky. They all looked up to observe. Li Zuj remarked, it's not even New Year's, yet someone is setting off fireworks? Yu Yang then interjected, that's a distress signal from the Jade Maiden Pavilion. How could it appear here? Li Wan, hearing this, asked, are you saying the Jade Maiden Pavilion is in trouble? Yu Yang then replied firmly, that's right, I won't mistake this. I need to hurry back. Li Wan suggested, Then let me accompany you, I might be able to help. Meanwhile, in another location, 3 men were menacingly cornering a girl. The leader said, "Next is you, Rui from the Jade Maiden Pavilion." The girl raised her sword and shouted, "Bastard." The leader laughed, "Don't worry, we won't kill you. As long as you serve us well, everything will be fine." Just then, he was knocked back. He sat up, fuming. "Who did that?" Yu Yang then appeared, boldly saying, "You fool, how dare you lay a hand on our Jade Maiden Pavilion?" Seeing Yu Yang then, Rui called out, "Senior sister." Yu Yang then stood protectively in front of her, coldly saying, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Rui looked at her senior sister, thinking, with such confidence, my sister must have trained hard for many years and achieved some results. Yu Yang then clenched her fist, reflecting, traveling the martial world for half a year, I've come to understand some truths. The men, seeing Yu Yang then's fierce demeanor, felt a pang of fear, thinking, her aura is truly terrifying. What kind of trick is she planning? To their surprise, Yu Yang then suddenly switched tactics, shouting, "Help! Help me!" Rui looked at her in confusion, saying, "Senior sister." Yu Yang then yelled, "You foolish head! If you can't fight, at least know to call for help. Do you want us all to serve these men?" The leader laughed heartily, "You can scream all you want, no one will come to save you. Your lives will be the foundation for our new dynasty." Just then, unexpectedly, the 2 men behind him were suddenly killed. He froze, turning around, exclaiming, "What?" Li Wan appeared, casually flicking a few stones in his hand, mocking, "Should I call you the remnants of the old dynasty, or perhaps the hounds of the new dynasty?" Seeing the 2 henchmen lying on the ground, the leader felt a surge of fear, thinking, this person has a strong aura. I need to summon everyone from the manor to stand a chance. He took out a firework and shot it into the sky, declaring, "All forces, heed my command." After the firework lit up the sky, he warned Li Wan, "Just you alone can't defeat us. You still have time to run." He waited for reinforcements, but no one arrived. He wondered, strange, where is everyone? Why haven't they come yet? Li Wan chuckled lightly, "Don't be in a hurry, they're just about to drop in." The leader, confused, asked, "Drop in?" Sure enough, right after Li Wan's words, several figures plummeted from above, all lifeless. The leader's face went pale, realizing, aren't these the assassins who've been lurking? He looked at Li Wan as if seeing a ghost, shouting, "Monster!" Li Wan, both warning and casual, asked, "I'm quite curious about this new dynasty you mentioned. Would you mind sharing a bit more with me?" As the 2 faced off, Rui turned to Yu Yang then, asking, "Senior sister, how did you manage to invite someone this powerful?" Yu Yang then beamed with pride, "Of course, it's all thanks to my charm." Rui, heartbroken, remarked, "Senior sister, so you've truly come to this? Our Jade Maiden Palace, a prestigious sect, and yet you're becoming someone's chambermaid." Yu Yang then shot back, "What are you thinking? I'm not selling myself." Meanwhile, Li Wan pressed the leader, "Now, tell me your name. Who's your superior?" Realizing he was outmatched, the leader reluctantly replied, "My name is Chudao Hua, and my superior is Truong Tam, renowned in these parts." Immediately, Li Wan grabbed one of his arms, and a cracking sound echoed as the bone broke. The man screamed loudly, "AAA," and clutched his broken arm, falling to the ground. Li Wan leaned in closer, his voice cold, "Don't worry, you won't die. I'll take my time until you talk." The man was sweating profusely, mumbling, My name is Li Si." Li Wan replied, "You've got some guts, huh?" At that moment, Yu Yang then approached from behind him and said to Li Wan, "Flying flame can't hold back. Unfortunately, I'm not skilled in interrogation. Is there any way to make him more cooperative?" The man laughed heartily, "Why not try the beauty trap? If you make me happy, I'll spill everything." He thought to himself, "I'm not even afraid of death, what else can you do?" Yu Yang then suggested, "I think we could lock him in with a wolf that's been drugged. But, stubborn as he is, he might not talk anyway. Or we could throw bricks at his toes, then set off firecrackers near his, you know. There are also 26 other torture methods, it seems like that wouldn't be enough." Hearing this, the man broke into a sweat. Li Wan asked, "What's the name of your sect?" Yu Yang then answered, "The Jade Maiden Palace." "Why do you ask?" Li Wan's expression darkened as he looked at the man. "Since the top disciple of the Jade Maiden Palace said that, why don't I give it a try?" The man trembled in fear, stammering, No need, I'll tell you everything." Li Wan got straight to the point, "What is your purpose? Where do you come from?" This time, the man quickly confessed, "We come from the coastal border, hunting down sects in the martial world. The Jade Maiden Palace is the 3rd sect." Rui asked, "Why do you want to attack us? What have we done wrong?" The man replied, "Because the essence of Shinchao's mineral energy is controlled in the Great Land, so we Before he could finish, Yu Yang then shouted, "Beasts! You want to use people with essence for stone cultivation, don't you?" At this moment, Li Wan dismissed his previous thought. No, this doesn't make sense. The conversion rate is far too low. For a powerful person like you, it would take at least 20 years to convert into mineral essence. Could it be that you've discovered some kind of method? The other person replied, I don't know. I'm just following orders. Li Wan pressed further, then who is your leader? The person answered, the descendant of the previous dynasty, Zhao Chuan. Li Wan picked up the fish-shaped jade pendant and asked one final question. Who among the rebel officers crafted this kind of jade pendant? The man stammered, It's. Before he could finish, his limbs started bleeding, and he died instantly. Rui asked, is he dead? Yu Yang then chimed in, did he commit suicide with poison? Li Wan checked and replied, it's not poison. The blood changed in his breath, and he died in an instant. Even I couldn't detect his method. We should return to the city first. I'll have someone from Six-Door Agency examine the body. He thought to himself, damn it, the information we wanted was right in front of us. The final part of their conversation could confirm that there was indeed an old acquaintance secretly helping them. But who could it be? In the afternoon, as the sun began to set, Cho Ruli said, after reviewing the reports from the past few days, the border situation is getting more chaotic. What do you plan to do next? Li Wan sighed as he sat in the chair, I'm just curious about which of my friends is connected to those from the former dynasty. Cho Ruli scoffed, her tone cold, what they're doing is clearly causing trouble. Can you still call him a friend? Li Wan explained, isn't that just a suggestion? Are you jealous? Cho Ruli immediately denied, dream on. I'm the Empress of Great Land, how could I think about those romantic matters every day? Besides, I don't even know if the other party is male or female. Isn't it because of your gloomy face? Li Wan gently held her hand and said, don't worry, I'm not sad. I just want to think of a way to ensure we can live together in peace. Cho Ruli agreed, yes, the sooner we resolve this, the more time we'll have together. Meanwhile, in a creaking carriage rolling down the road, a mysterious figure asked, what happened? A green-haired man, holding a frozen puppet, replied, the assassins are all dead. Anyone who reveals the names shouldn't expect to live long. The mysterious figure remarked, your southern barbarians Wusu have such skills, killing from a distance should be easy for you. The green-haired man reminded him, don't forget your mission. Only you can accomplish it. The mysterious figure revealed his face and sneered, don't worry. My sister has a soft heart, I'll personally see her off. Meanwhile, Li Wan was practicing on the roof, absorbing qi and thinking, it's strange, why can't my body seem to be filled? I feel like I can still get stronger. Am I like the monkey from Scion Planet, getting stronger every time I die? Under the eaves, a cough broke the silence, ahem. Li Wan looked down and saw Chen Hai. He asked, caught a cold? You should drink plenty of hot water. Chen Hai snapped, shut up. I have something to discuss with you. Even though His Majesty didn't specifically send me to talk to you, I think it's better to inform you after I learned about the news and decisions regarding you. Li Wan silently speculated, saying, could it be, no way. Chen Hai saw that he had figured it out and added, that's right, it's exactly what you're thinking. You've probably heard this news already. Li Wan interjected, asking, so she's finally pregnant? Chen Hai exploded with anger, cursing, pregnant my foot. A prince has returned to the capital. Li Wan shrugged it off, saying, just a prince. If he dares to cause trouble, we can just capture him, right? Chen Hai shook his head, explaining, it's not that simple. This time, it's the third prince. He once mentioned the national conflict with His Majesty. Li Wan repeated, the national conflict? Chen Hai continued, the crown prince back then was the eldest prince, but he had a strange personality. When the rebels rose up, he left home on his own and never returned. At that time, His Majesty was busy dealing with the rebels and never established a crown prince before passing, leading to the subsequent national conflict. Chen Hai went on, all the princes and princesses participated in that struggle. In the end, thanks to His Majesty's cunning, he secured the throne. Li Wan deduced, I see. You want me to deal with him on the way, right? Chen Hai reluctantly said, no. This guy has achieved military merit and was injured at the border, which is why he has the chance to return to the capital to rest. But I have a suspicion that I'm very concerned about. He took out a memorial and handed it to Li Wan, saying, after you read this, you'll understand. After reading the memorial, Li Wan commented, so that's how it is. This guy is a son of privilege, spending his days indulging in pleasure. How could someone like that achieve so many military exploits at the border? Chen Hai added, exactly. I suspect the third prince may have colluded with remnants of the previous dynasty. Those military exploits could have been fabricated. This time, he has another purpose for returning. Li Wan looked at Chen Hai, smiling as he said, well then, it's a good opportunity to lure the snake out of its hole and see what they're plotting. Chen Hai continued, also, the body you brought back for us has been examined. Li Wan asked, did you find any clues? Chen Hai replied, we only found that his blood suddenly drained out, causing his death. There were no signs of poison. No other useful clues were discovered. Li Wan was even more confused. I wonder what methods they used to kill him? At that moment, a shout came from outside, let go of me. Both Li Wan and Chen Hai were drawn to the commotion. Li Wan said, that sounds like Li Zuj. What's happening outside? Li Zuj was surrounded by a group of rough men. She shouted at the tallest one, I said, let go of your filthy hands. Can't you understand human language? The tall man laughed mockingly, my prince has taken an interest in you, which is your good fortune. Don't be so shameless, it's just for one night, after all. You might even get to be a concubine. Furious, Li Zuj kicked him in the groin. He cried out in pain and released her. Yu Yang then said, let's go. Don't waste your time with them. At that moment, someone stepped forward and blocked their way, saying, stop right there. Qiu Rushang grinned, you want to leave after attacking my men? Yu Yang then, unfazed, shot back, if you've got something to say, then say it. What do you want? Qiu Rushang sneered, I like your spirit. You'd make a fitting maid for my chambers. At that moment, a voice rang out, I quite like your attitude as well. Li Wan smiled, appearing and saying, stinky little brother, I didn't expect you to come right to my doorstep. Seeing Li Wan, Li Zuj called out, Master. Qiu Rushang turned to look at Li Wan and shouted, where did this country bumpkin come from, daring to call me stinky little brother? Disable him for me. Hearing the sounds of thuds behind him, Qiu Rushang crossed his arms and remarked, what a brainless fool, wanting to be a hero saving the damsel. Too bad you've picked a fight with someone you shouldn't. He added, leave him breathing, I'll just give him a few punches. Then, someone called from behind, Your Highness. The man turned, only to hear Li Wan say, leave him breathing? All right, I'll oblige you. Looking at his subordinates sprawled out, the man trembled, how could this be? My carefully chosen guards have all been taken down by him. Li Wan laughed, saying, I told you, you're my stinky little brother. Next, I'll serve you with a whip. Qiu Rushang, frightened, took a few steps back, trembling as he said, your skills are indeed impressive. But this is the capital, causing trouble here isn't a wise choice. Unexpectedly, just as he finished speaking, he received a hard slap that sent him crashing to the ground. Holding his face, he shouted, I am a brother of the current emperor. You're just a rural warrior. If you cause chaos in the palace, just wait and see whom the emperor will help. Li Wan leaned in close, lightly stroking his cheek while smirking mockingly. You bully my friend, and I let you off this time. Do you think my wife will see me the same way? Qiu Rushang quivered, asking, your wife? Who could possibly compare to someone as noble as I? At that moment, Chen Hai led a group from the 6 doors rushing in. He ordered, arrest him. Seeing the 6 doors members, Qiu Rushang shouted, laughing arrogantly, ha ha, kid, the 6 doors are here. Let's see if you still dare to act tough. Arrest him, I need to teach him a lesson. However, unexpectedly, he was the one who ended up being bound by the 6 doors. Confused, Qiu Rushang yelled, are you all insane? Do you know who I am? Chen Hai calmly replied, I don't care who you are. You touched someone connected to the emperor and think you can just walk away. Hearing this, Qiu Rushang panicked, thinking, someone connected to the emperor. Wait, with this kind of skill, could he be the legendary rebel leader? So he lowered his head in apology, saying, it was all a misunderstanding, we're all family here. I was rude earlier, please forgive me. He thought, I have to stay calm, I haven't completely offended them yet. After all, getting closer still serves my purpose. But suddenly, Li Wan kicked him mercilessly, shouting, are you brain damaged? You just bullied my little lady and then called for someone to chop me up. Do you think we can just laugh it off? Qiu Rushang, bruised and battered, asked, what do you want? I already apologized. Hurting a royal family member is a death sentence. Chen Hai interjected, aren't you going to take action? On the side, Chen Hai spoke to Li Wan, why don't you just kick him to death? Li Wan replied, after all, he's the emperor's brother, and he'll have charges against us when we return. Qiu Rushang spoke up, have a little respect for me, I'm still here. Li Wan waved his hand toward Li Zuj, saying, you two should join in and take a few swings to vent your frustration. Li Zuj pondered, but he is a prince after all. Li Wan asked, what do you mean? Qiu Rushang coldly laughed, well, now that you understand your place, why not stop? I won't hold it against you anymore. Li Zuj rolled up her sleeves, saying, I just mean don't hit him to death. Li Wan grinned, no problem. Then, Qiu Rushang was mercilessly beaten. He screamed, "Ah! Fair maiden, spare me. Don't hit my face, my proud looks." Li Zuj retorted, "This is for your arrogance. Just accept your fate." After turning Cho Rushang into a swollen mess, Li Zuj remarked, "No wonder he's a prince, he can take a beating." Looking at him, she added, "I've vented a bit, so fine, let's call it even this time." Yu Yang then chimed in, "Call it even? If we had proper tools, it would have taken even more effort." Li Wan asked, "Are all the people of the Jade Maiden Palace so violent?" Chen Hai responded, "The prince encountered an unforeseen incident, I will investigate. You all should leave here first." Cho Rushang, having been beaten to the brink of death, thought upon hearing Chen Hai's words, "An unforeseen incident, you beast." Meanwhile, Li Wan stood in front of the study, speaking to Cho Ru Li with a heavy heart, "Your Majesty, I want to report the third prince for harassment on the main road, which nearly caused me serious injury." Cho Ru Li rested her chin on her hand, smiling as she asked, "Is that so? My husband has suffered such great injustice, do you need me to comfort you?" Li Wan moved closer to her and said, "Your Majesty, stop laughing, this is a serious matter. That third prince teased Li Zuj and even sent someone to beat me." Cho Ru Li continued to smile, "If you beat him, I would believe it. But tell me, have you nearly killed him yet?" Li Wan sighed, "Forget it. The thing I hate most is fighting and killing, I won't cause trouble for you. We should just talk and hug each other." Cho Ru Li became serious, "Rest assured, if he truly colludes with the enemy, I will not spare him and will deal with it according to the law." Li Wan replied, "If we go by the law, Your Majesty, you have already harmed countless lives of my family, the Li family." Cho Ru Li was unhappy, scoffing, "Well, isn't that just like my Cho family?" She handed him a letter, "Stop joking around, take this letter to Chen Hai, and let him deliver it to the third prince. While you're at it, grab some medicine for him." She thought, causing trouble right after returning, there must be another motive. Holding the letter, Li Wan asked, "What does it say?" Cho Ru Li replied, "Just some comforting words." Elsewhere, an old minister spoke to Cho Rushang, who was lying bandaged on the bed, "Your Highness, that person is not someone we can provoke." Cho Rushang said, "That damn traitor. Wasn't I just flirting with a few girls?" The old minister replied, "A traitor? That may be how it seems to Your Highness, but to us, he is absolutely not someone to challenge. He is the #1 figure in the world." Cho Rushang angrily shouted, "Shut up. I don't care about the so-called #1 in the world. I will definitely make him pay with his life." After that, a servant entered, holding a letter and said, "Your Highness, the Emperor has sent medicine and a letter to comfort you." Cho Rushang scoffed, "Humph. Even the Emperor should give me some face. What does the letter say?" The servant opened the letter and read, "It says that Your Highness has never been very bright since childhood, and you haven't been to the capital in such a long time. You should be careful, or you won't even know how you'll die. She won't come to pick up your corpse." Cho Rushang, hearing this, was so furious he nearly spat blood, his face darkening. "Damn it. Contact that shaman of the killer tribe for me. I will make that pair of mutts pay with their lives." In the late night, in some corner of the bustling capital, cards were being thrown down on the table. A green-haired man said, "Pay up, don't try to cheat me." Another man sitting next to him asked, "What game is this?" The green-haired man replied, "It's called Landlord, invented by the leader of the rebel army. It's very popular." A man with a scarred face asked, "But do you think this third prince is worth it? I just want to be a dragon, not a bullet sponge." The green-haired man laughed, "Isn't that simple? I use the net technique, one I will see everything." Another man asked in admiration, "You know the net technique? Is that for real?" The green-haired man tossed his hair back, "Of course, I learned it a bit from a wandering Taoist, but I've only managed to open it once in 10 years. As long as I have dragon chi, my one I can see it all." One man suggested, "Why don't you check out that guy from the previous dynasty?" The green-haired man replied, "At that time, I wasn't thinking that much, I just wanted to make a living." He stood up, looking toward the building where the third prince resided, and said, "Don't bother me anymore. Stay still while I check if the third prince is truly the leader." The green-haired man closed his eyes, performed a spell, and shouted, "Open." A brilliant golden light shone down. The green-haired man exclaimed in surprise, "Amazing. The third prince has the potential of an emperor." He saw 2 dragons and explained to his companions, "The dragon form appears, surrounded by purple energy, this is a sign of good fortune. But why are there 2 phoenixes too? You two stop clinging to each other." One of his companions asked, "What's going on? Is this for real? Does the third prince truly have such powerful destiny?" The green-haired man replied, "Could it be fake? Our brothers will soon witness the birth of the true dragon." Then, they knelt down and shouted loudly, "Third prince! Third prince! From afar, Li Wan peered through the window and said, "It's just a card game, no need to get so excited." But from their conversation, it's clear these people have ties to the previous dynasty. At that moment, Zhou Rushang opened his eyes, sat up, and asked, "What's all the noise?" "It's too loud." Li Wan quickly struck him down onto the bed again, using the hypnotic technique of the Li family. "Stay down." He approached the large bookshelf and said, "Let's see if there are any more clues while my wife warms the bed for me." Picking up a book, Li Wan muttered, "Filthy stuff, confiscated." As he rummaged through the collection, he found it filled with obscene books. Shaking his head, he sighed, "Why is it all such filthy material?" Looking at Zhou Rushang he said, "You old pervert, no wonder you couldn't become emperor." Then, he noticed a letter hidden under Zhou Rushang's pillow. He murmured, "What's this?" and was about to take the letter when Zhou Rushang opened his eyes again. Li Wan quickly flicked his hand, knocking Zhou Rushang unconscious once more. "You're the first person to endure 4 of my strikes and still survive. You could brag about that for the rest of your life." He opened the letter and scanned its contents. As expected, this guy's real goal is to kill Ru Li. Well, that won't do, only I get to pull off an assassination of the emperor. He noticed a particular line in the letter: "When you arrive in the capital, try to ally with the emperor. I will personally come soon to deliver the goods to you. This is our plan, blah blah blah." Li Wan mused, "So he's coming personally to hand over the goods? That makes things clearer. You lucky fool, you still have some use left. Hiding such an important letter under your pillow and not even destroying it, what a simpleton." He pushed open the door, looking at Zhou Ruyu Li, who was sitting at the table, and said, "Wife, you're still not asleep?" Zhou Ru Li pouted, "Do you think I could fall asleep after letting you go out alone?" Li Wan teased, "Could it be that you've gotten used to me being around?" Zhou Ru Li frowned slightly, "I don't feel safe being alone." Clearly not pleased, Zhou Ru Li responded, "Yeah, you're the real danger here. Did you find anything? Or did you just finish him off already?" Li Wan smiled and replied, "No, but I did gather some valuable information. We might even catch a bigger fish." Curious, Zhou Ru Li asked, "What kind of information? How do you plan to use it?" Li Wan explained, "Your brother is indeed colluding with the remnants of the previous dynasty. His real purpose for coming here is to assassinate you." He then detailed, "He also wants me to get involved with the rebels. So this time, I won't act too quickly. Once everything is ready, we'll catch them all in one sweep." Zhou Ru Li nodded approvingly, "Well done." Li Wan, with a hint of pride, responded, "Only well done? This is top-tier intelligence, the second best in the world, painstakingly gathered by me." Zhou Ru Li teased, "There are some minor things off, but it's passable enough to meet the standard." Li Wan, slightly indignant, asked, "Passable? What would it take to be considered outstanding?" Jokingly, Zhou Ru Li replied, "Coming home early and resting." Even the title of second best in the world has to come after being Zhou Ru Li's husband. Glancing at the fries and sauce on the table, Zhou Ru Li asked, "What do you call these fried potatoes?" Li Wan answered, "They're fries. Try them out, don't forget the ketchup." Zhou Ru Li took a bite, chewed, and complimented, "Not bad. Crispy on the outside. Last time, hamburgers were a hit in the capital. I feel like these fries will also become a very popular dish." Li Wan joked, "So, no reward for me." Zhou Ru Li lowered her voice, All right. What kind of reward do you want?" Li Wan thought for a moment before replying, "How about something intimate?" Zhou Ru Li immediately refused, "Keep dreaming. At most, I'll feed you." She bit one end of a fry and brought it close to him, "Open your mouth." As Li Wan leaned in to take the fry, the two ended up sharing a deep kiss. Just as they were lost in the moment, Chen Hai appeared, coughing awkwardly, "Your Majesty?" They quickly pulled away. Zhou Ru Li asked, "What is it, Chen Hai?" Chen Hai reported, "The third prince has recovered and wishes to enter the palace to meet your Majesty. He says it's been a while since he last saw you and would like to spend some time catching up." Zhou Ru Li let out a cold laugh, "How surprising." Chen Hai thought to himself, "That treacherous scoundrel, am I invisible here?" Zhou Ru Li remarked, "Trying to get close to me, probably to kill me, right?" From behind, Li Wan chimed in, "You should meet him. I'll be here. The big fish has taken the bait, it's time to play him." Zhou Ru Li raised an eyebrow, "What mischief are you planning now?" She commanded Chen Hai, "Bring him to the Imperial study." Li Wan pretended to be fragile, "How could your adorable husband have any evil thoughts?" Meanwhile, Zhou Rushang entered and respectfully bowed before the Empress. Zhou Ru Li, calmly resting her chin on her hand, said, "You may rise. I heard you were injured." Zhou Rushang immediately started complaining, "I encountered a ruffian in the capital. That scoundrel. He's worse than a pig or dog. He probably thinks she hasn't figured out his intentions yet. Pretending to care, well, it makes it easier to strike later. As he was in the middle of his complaints, a hand patted him on the shoulder, and a voice said, "Oh? Really? Tell me, what did he look like?" Cho Ryu Shang froze in place. Cho Ryu Li introduced, "Oh, I forgot to mention, this is your brother-in-law." Li Wan, seizing the moment, asked, "Go ahead, tell us, who was bullying you that day? I'll back you up." Cho Rushang quickly changed his tone. "That day, I must have been hit by a carriage. It caused memory loss and disorientation." Li Wan pressed further, "So you're saying no one hit you at all, is that right?" Cho Rushang nodded vigorously, Yes, my mind was definitely confused." Li Wan grinned and asked, "Or maybe you could say." Cho Rushang, nervous, asked, "Say what?" Li Wan turned to Cho Ru Li and said, "His accusation against the Empress is no small matter. Just moments ago, he committed lèse majesté. According to the laws of Great Land, the punishment for such a crime is execution." Cho Rushang was terrified and hastily explained, "Your Majesty, I absolutely didn't mean it that way." Li Wan's gaze sharpened like a blade, "So what you're saying is that every word you just said was true, right?" Cho Rushang stammered, I. Li Wan softened his tone and said warmly, "Little brother, let me tell you something. I can help you out of this, but you know, I'll need some compensation." Cho Rushang quickly changed his tune, "Of course, Master Li, you're wise and powerful. Any price, I'll pay." Li Wan smirked, "No big deal, 2,000 taels of gold, and this can all be resolved." Cho Rushang nodded, gritting his teeth, 2,000? Fine, I'll trouble you then. Inside, Cho Rushang cursed furiously, "Why don't you just rob me? This time, I'm losing big. I swear I'll kill you too, you conniving couple." Li Wan turned back to Cho Ru Li, saying, "Your Majesty, the third prince's mind is clearly unsettled. His actions were unintentional. For the sake of the sibling bond, perhaps you could spare his life." Cho Rushang, trying to maintain composure, quickly echoed, yes, sibling love, Your Majesty." Cho Ru Li, calm and composed, replied, "Well, that's what we say. But you know, in our great land, the law is not something to be taken lightly." Li Wan interjected, "Your Majesty, the third prince and I have just reached an agreement. He's willing to sell all his assets to contribute to the country." Cho Rushang nearly coughed up blood in frustration, thinking, "This bastard. What happened to the 2,000 taels we discussed?" Cho Ru Li, satisfied, responded, "If he's come to this realization, I won't pursue the matter any further." Li Wan pretended to be solemn, "Your Majesty is truly wise." Cho Rushang clasped his hands and said, "I swear my loyalty until death." In his mind, he thought, "It seems they've agreed to let me off, though it cost me quite a bit." He then added, "Well, I'll take my leave for now. Brother-in-law, do visit my residence sometime." Li Wan laughed, "No problem, little brother. After all, we're all family here." As Cho Rushang walked off, happily humming, Cho Ru Li thought to herself, "Is this idiot really related to me? How did the great Cho family produce such a fool?" Li Wan turned to Cho Ru Li and teased, "See, you've got the better of me again. What if our future children turn out as foolish as him?" Cho Ru Li frowned, "Who's foolish?" "He's the idiot. All the intelligence will come from me." Li Wan playfully added, "But why stop at just one prince? Shouldn't we have a few more Hulu brothers joining us?" Cho Ru Li looked puzzled, "Hulu brothers? What nonsense are you going on about now?" Li Wan waved his hand dismissively, "Oh, nothing. It's just a touching story about the Hulu brothers saving their grandfather." Cho Ru Li crossed her arms, exuding nobility as she said, "You should feel fortunate. A smart, virtuous wife like me with such a good temperament means our future children will certainly be outstanding." Li Wan replied, "A smart, virtuous wife, yes, but as for the temperament." Cho Ru Li immediately cut in, "What did you just say?" Li Wan quickly corrected himself, "I meant, don't say that when you're pregnant. You never know, it might not turn out that way." A few days later, Li Wan stood on a rooftop, observing the scene below. "It's been a while now, that guy should be playing along obediently. Visiting his house these past few days, I've even snuck out with a few things each time. I doubt he suspects I'm keeping an eye on him." Watching Cho Rushang mount his horse, Li Wan thought, "Time to pull the net tight." Meanwhile, Cho Rushang, sitting on his horse, smiled broadly. "I never expected the leader of the rebels to be nothing more than a money-hungry fool. Heaven is surely on my side. Once everything's done, I'll take all the gold and show it off to him every day." The blue-haired guard, watching Cho Rushang's confident grin, thought, "The third prince is so sure of himself, truly a son of heaven." The group of three headed to a clearing in the forest. Cho Rushang shouted loudly, "This prince has arrived. No more hiding in the shadows. I want to deal with that dog emperor quickly." In the dense forest, a figure appeared, wearing a mask, a hat, and a cloak that covered them completely. Zhou Rushang asked, is it just you? Did you bring the goods? At that moment, Li Wan appeared and casually asked, where's that foolish little brother? Zhou Rushang responded, right here, brother-in-law. But then, realizing something was wrong, he turned and saw Li Wan smiling at them. Both Zhou Rushang and his guards exclaimed in unison, what are you doing here? Li Wan replied, of course, I'm here to deal with you, little brother. Zhou Rushang, now alarmed, ordered, don't be afraid, stop him for me. One of his guards, the one with green hair, stepped up and reassured, don't worry. The third prince is someone blessed with great fortune. He'll definitely survive this. Li Wan looked at them with a sinister glint in his eyes, saying coldly, kneel, and I won't kill you. Without hesitation, both guards immediately dropped to their knees and said, we surrender. We were just passing by, that's all. As the two of them fled in panic, Zhou Rushang cursed, worthless trash, absolutely useless. He then turned to the masked figure standing behind him and said, good thing your old comrades are still around. We've long thought of a way to deal with him. Zhou Rushang shouted, prepare to die, you filthy rebel. But before he could finish, the masked figure swiftly ended him, sending him flying in confusion. Li Wan commented, a fine trick, dead men tell no tales. Now then, my old friend, take off your mask. It's time you and I met face to face. The masked figure said nothing, raising its clawed hand to charge forward. The impact echoed throughout the area, kicking up a cloud of dust. But as the dust settled, Li Wan had pinned the figure's arm to the ground. With a swift swing of his sword, he sent the figure flying. Approaching, Li Wan looked down and asked, who are you? I don't recall having an acquaintance skilled enough to do that. If we're not friends, I won't show mercy next time. The next strike will take your life. The masked figure chuckled, and as it did, the mask cracked from the force. Leader, you've become slower since you got married, it said. Li Wan's eyes widened in surprise. Luo Shangzuj? What are you doing here? What do you want? I'm not your leader. The masked figure didn't answer. Instead, flames erupted around them, filling the sky with fire. Li Wan immediately created a protective barrier, thinking, have you been controlled by someone else? What do those words mean? How could I be slow? Noticing something on the ground, he picked up a needle and exclaimed, this needle. Combined with the ability to control others. Could it be him? Li Wan wondered, if it's him, then everything I've done has gone too smoothly. Have I overlooked something? The third prince entered the capital and was controlled? No, Ru Li. How did I not realize this sooner? From the start, the third prince was just a pawn to lure me in, their true target is Ru Li. Meanwhile, in the study, a puppet had drawn close to Zhou Ru Li, attacking as she sat reading a memorial. Startled, she was fortunate that Chen Hai arrived just in time, severing the puppet's hand. The puppet staggered back. Chen Hai stared at it and declared, I almost failed to save you, a crime deserving of death. Zhou Ru Li replied calmly, there's no need for you to blame yourself, my dear. What exactly is this thing? Chen Hai explained, this might be a puppet created by the sorcerer of the southern barbarians. I encountered similar monsters when I was stationed at the border. The puppet lunged forward to attack again, and Chen Hai raised his sword for defense. He prepared to strike, saying, let me show you a bit about the true power of humanity's heavenly flower style. With a swift swing, a powerful wave of sword energy surged forth, slicing the puppet and severing its limbs. However, the roof also suffered damage in the process. Zhou Ru Li approached and asked, how did this thing get into the palace? The sorcerer of the southern barbarians has such capabilities. Chen Hai responded, puppets lack true energy, so they don't emit killing intent when attacking. Moreover, sorcerers can control them from a distance, making it hard for ordinary masters to detect them. He thought to himself, of course, with a master of this level, it would be difficult for me to hide as well. At that moment, the remaining parts of the puppet sprouted sharp, needle-like spikes. Chen Hai recognized the danger immediately and rushed in front of Zhou Ru Li, shouting, Your Majesty, be careful. The spikes pierced through Chen Hai, causing blood to flow. Yet, he maintained a serious demeanor, saying, Your Majesty, rest assured, I will protect you with my life. He silently considered, does this hidden weapon contain poison? As long as I stabilize my true energy, the poison won't spread. Just then, the puppet opened its mouth and shot an arrow. Li Wan descended from above and stomped down, shattering the puppet. However, the arrow still shot out from the puppet's mouth, narrowly grazing Zhou Ru Li's hair and cutting off a small tuft. Chen Hai, alarmed, felt blood trickle from the corner of his mouth and thought, thank goodness it missed. The bright arrow pierced through the roof and disappeared. Standing on the remnants of the puppet, Li Wan angrily declared, How dare you hurt my wife's hair? I'll go to the southern barbarians and pluck every last one of your hairs. Zhou Ru Li looked at Li Wan and said, if you had arrived just a moment later, you would have been too late. Li Wan replied, I'll come back and admit my mistakes, but I must say, as my wife, facing life and death situations, you remain so composed. Cho Ru Li replied earnestly, it's because I believe you would come in time. Li Wan thought to himself, I was careless this time, but they've been planning this for so long, it can't be Chen Hai's strategy. Even if I hadn't caught up, Chen Hai could likely manage. Could there be another purpose behind this? As he pondered, Chen Hai could no longer bear it and fainted. Cho Ru Li anxiously called out, Chen Hai, and turned to Li Wan, saying, you must go get the Imperial physician quickly. Li Wan stood there in confusion. It's strange, with his strength, how could he be poisoned so severely? Meanwhile, Chen Hai, unconscious, thought to himself, I was careless. Seeing that rogue playing with the Empress, the blood rushed to my head. In another place, an arrow flew at incredible speed, striking a tree where a mysterious figure was leaning. The figure caught the arrow, examining the silver strands of hair on it, and said, mission accomplished, it's time to return to the southern barbarians. At the dining table, Li Wan briefly recounted everything to Cho Ru Li. That's how it is. Your third brother is dead. Cho Ru Li, picking up food, replied, he's also your third brother. If he's dead, then so be it. Watching her eat heartily, Li Wan thought, no wonder she's the woman who killed dozens of people from the Li family. Li Wan then asked, I've discovered who the bad company aiding the remnants of the previous dynasty is. Have you heard of someone named Tu Yen? Cho Ru Li's chopsticks paused mid-air as she said, him again? The healer Tu Yen saved many suffering civilians when he was with the rebel forces, he was very compassionate. Of course, I've heard of him. But why is he doing this now? Li Wan admitted, I don't know either, I can hardly believe it. Could it be that the war changed him in the end? Cho Ru Li lowered her eyes and said, I'm sorry for making you so busy during this time. Knowing about Tu Yen must be very upsetting for you. Li Wan smiled and said, it's nothing. For my wife's matters, helping you brings me joy. Cho Ru Li continued, but when you and I married, I wanted us to live a peaceful life together, not to always be in danger. Li Wan agreed, I think so too, which is why I concealed my identity. But trouble always seems to find its way to me. For now, you just need to rest easy and rely on me. Cho Ru Li responded, yes, you also need to lean on me. At that moment, Chen Hai entered, breaking the pink atmosphere around them. He cleared his throat, ahem. Cho Ru Li looked at him and asked, Chen Hai, are you still here? You have blood at the corner of your mouth. Li Wan, concerned, added, is the blood on your mouth not from the poison yet? Chen Hai thought, damn it, I'm going to be sick just thinking about that damn rebel. At that moment, a maid brought in a box containing ginseng. Cho Ru Li said, you've worked hard, my dear. This is 1,000-year-old ginseng. You've served well, I will always remember it. Chen Hai accepted it, smiling, thank you, your majesty. I swear to serve you loyally until death. Li Wan chimed in, so this is the 1,000-year-old ginseng. I used to have one every week, thinking it was just a carrot. Chen Hai retorted, if you didn't say anything, no one would think you were mute. Shifting the topic, he continued, following your earlier instructions, I had people monitor the fleeing subordinates of the third prince. They found their stronghold in the eastern city, but by the time I arrived, my men had already been dealt with. Li Wan speculated, then they've likely headed toward the southern tribes. Chen Hai quickly added, I'll lead the men to catch them right away. Li Wan declined, they were able to easily handle the people from the 6-panel gates, so their strength is likely not weak. You won't catch up with them at your speed. They've probably almost reached the Great Land's border by now. Let me handle this. Chen Hai chimed in, exactly, your speed is unmatched, you're quick at everything. Li Wan felt uneasy, sensing a hidden meaning in Chen Hai's words. Cho Ru Li hesitated as she asked, do you really want to go, though? Li Wan smiled reassuringly, don't worry, I can handle it. I'm not just doing this for you, but I also want to know what my old friend is up to. As long as I capture them, I'll surely gather valuable intelligence. Cho Ru Li didn't push back anymore, saying, all right then, take some medicine with you. It could come in handy if you're injured. She quickly ordered, bring me 9 turn revival pills and 3 doses of life-saving medicine. Hearing this, Chen Hai thought, Your Majesty, please stop gifting. If you keep this up, we'll drain the national treasury. On a forest path, 3 mysterious figures in black were gliding through the air. The old man leading them suddenly halted and said, stop. The one behind asked, Mr. Tu, if we stop now, won't we get chased? The old man scolded, you fools. We're being watched. The other guy gasped, what? So soon? In a flash of light, Li Wan appeared right in front of them. The old man assessed him and said, with such speed, you must be Li Wan, the leader of the rebels. Indeed, the leader of the rebels is remarkably fast and dangerous. Li Wan thought, are you channeling a movie character? The old man cryptically asked, but can you move faster than our guns? Li Wan was confused. What guns? You look more like you're racing than anything else. At that moment, several of them drew guns and fired at Li Wan. He quickly dodged, thinking, what kind of situation is this? Fighting at close range with guns? Have I somehow crossed over to another world again? Perched on a tree branch, Li Wan recalled, back in the rebel army, I did have thoughts about creating modern weapons like guns. I never imagined that Tu Yen could actually make them. The men continued to fire at Li Wan, but he evaded every shot. One of them yelled, he's scared. I can't believe our newly developed weapons are this effective. As Li Wan dodged bullets, he thought, this is annoying, if I ruin the clothes Ru Li gave me, she won't be happy. The old man laughed loudly, ha ha, the leader of the rebels is nothing but useless. His companions joined in the laughter. Li Wan coldly asked, is that all you've got? Why don't you run a little faster? Is your back hurting? He suddenly changed the subject, do you know about shrews? The three of them were puzzled, huh? Moments later, they found themselves buried underground, with only their bald heads sticking out. Li Wan squatted down and said, who told you to hurt my wife Ru Li's hair? This time, I'll humiliate you. He casually asked, do you know someone named Tu Yen? The old man boasted, humph, do you think we're just anyone? Our Maitu family has undergone strict training since birth. We are professionals. Li Wan pulled out a jade vial and said, do you know what this is? It's a potion newly developed by the main disciple of the Jade Maiden sect. Upon hearing this, the old man scoffed, the Jade Maiden sect? The sect we wiped out? What could such a third-rate sect possibly create? Li Wan sat on a rock, looking at them with a smile, this stuff is quite potent, it's called the Beastly Harmony Powder. It's an aphrodisiac that my friend specifically researched for animal use, he explained casually. In this dense forest, if I simply pour a little, well, you can imagine the scene, right? I'll give each of you one chance. One of the three, suddenly frightened, confessed, Tu Yen, he's our strategist. We all have to listen to him. Just spare us, and we'll tell you everything. Another man, panicking, shouted, I'll confess first. Good man, spare my life. The old man reluctantly said, humph, how could their information be more than mine? Do you know where the heroes we killed went? Li Wan asked, tell me. The old man replied, they've been thrown into the Death Dragon Valley of southern barbarians. Just toss a few miscellaneous heroes in there, and we'll convert them into mineral essence. Li Wan pressed further, but the conversion isn't that fast. What method did you use? The old man explained, that's thanks to our ancestors' blessings. Although the previous dynasty has fallen, one line still possesses treasures, including an ancestral sword. It can accelerate the conversion within a mile radius. After finishing, he asked, so, what do you think, young brother? Is this information enough for you to spare me? Li Wan said, it is indeed useful, but I still have one question. The Li family was killed by someone sent by Tu Yen, right? The old man's eyes widened in shock, the Li family? What do you know? Has someone figured it all out already? The man behind him yelled, this old man won't give anything up. I don't know anything, just spare my life. At this moment, several men in black holding guns stood behind Li Wan. He said, did your reinforcements arrive so quickly? The old man laughed heartily, you'll never know. The Li family must die. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Wan spat on the old man's bald head. You fool. Not knowing the secrets of the Li family right now doesn't matter. I will gradually investigate. I just need to confirm who was behind this. The old man asked, what do you mean? At that moment, the gunman behind shouted, kill the leader of the rebel army. A reward of 1,000,000 taels of gold, and a second-class title. Li Wan seemed very angry, you are truly unlucky to provoke me at the worst possible time. Hearing this, the men froze in fear. Li Wan said little, raised his hand, and blood flowed. He spoke in a deep voice, use you all as sacrifices for the Li family first. Before the group could react, they were all killed. One man was left alive, sitting on the ground, backing away and looking at Li Wan as if he were a ghost. He pleaded, spare me. Please. Li Wan stepped over the pile of corpses and said, don't worry, I won't kill you. Deliver a message to Zhao Chuan and Tu Yen for me. Clean your neck and wait. I will take their heads. Chen Hai, standing guard outside the room, suddenly caught a whiff of something. He thought, is that the smell of blood? He shouted, who dares to storm the palace at midnight? Come out and face your death. Li Wan appeared behind him, it's me, don't be tense. Step aside a bit. Chen Hai looked at Li Wan and said, your majesty is resting. You must not disturb her. Chen Hai thought to himself, you showing up in the royal chambers at this time just makes me more worried. Li Wan chuckled and teased, don't say that, I'm the legal husband of your majesty. It's only natural for me to be in her chamber. Chen Hai replied firmly, if you want a reward, just say so, and I will relay it to Her Majesty in the morning. Li Wan frowned, what if I want it now? Why are you so boring? He thought for a moment and said, by the way, Chen Hai, you're still not married, right? Chen Hai continued to block him, Your Majesty is asleep. With me here guarding, don't think about anything unnecessary. At that moment, a maid appeared and said, Lord Chen Hai, Her Majesty instructed me to bring this esteemed gentleman inside. Li Wan raised two fingers confidently, I told you, without me, Ru Li can't sleep. Chen Hai's face turned dark with anger, but he couldn't do anything. Li Wan pushed the door open and saw Cho Ru Li resting her chin on the table, looking worried. She asked, are you hurt? Li Wan replied sadly, of course I am. Cho Ru Li hurriedly asked, where are you hurt? Li Wan wrapped his arms around her waist and teased, my heart. Being apart for so long, my heart is almost withering away. Cho Ru Li made a slight grimace but didn't push him away, saying, it's only been half a day. So cheesy. Li Wan said, full of emotion, I want to be by your side every second, but there are always obstacles. I love you. Cho Ru Li huffed lightly, smiling, you've already embraced me, and you're still not satisfied? She pinched his cheek and asked, so, what did you find out? Li Wan yelped in pretend remorse, I was wrong, but I managed to gather some news about the Li family. After listening to Li Wan recount everything, Cho Ru Li sat on the bed and commented, I don't know the connection between the Li family and the previous dynasty. In any case, I will send someone to investigate this. Li Wan asked, so, does that mean I'm done with this task? Is there any reward? Cho Ru Li blushed and leaned against Li Wan's shoulder. He looked at her in surprise, you're being proactive today? But suddenly, Cho Ru Li collapsed, causing Li Wan to panic. What's wrong? You're too hot, you have a fever. He shouted outside, quick, summon the royal physician. The Empress is ill. After checking Cho Ru Li's pulse, the physician said, I will prescribe some medicine for the Empress, but this is only a temporary measure, it may help a little. Chen Hai asked, what illness does the Empress have that cannot be treated completely? The physician sighed, in my years of studying medicine, I have never encountered a pulse like this. I fear. Li Wan's voice turned serious. Fear what? The physician replied, if it cannot be treated thoroughly, I'm afraid the prognosis is not good. Li Wan looked at Cho Ru Li lying on the bed, her face flushed from the fever, and thought in shock, how can this be? What has happened? Meanwhile, in a large incense burner, a group of people from the Southern Man tribe was gathered. A golden dragon flapped its wings, trying to escape from the incense burner. The Southern Man people were dancing wildly. The leader of the group, holding a skull, continuously recited incantations. From a distance, a voice could be heard. Can we really trust these officials? A red-haired man said, can these rural folks from the Southern Man really kill the Emperor of the Great Land? The red-haired man was Xiao Chuan, the leader of the remnants of the previous dynasty. The silver-haired man behind him, wearing a hat, replied, the dragon energy around the Emperor will surely be a problem, but we must definitely eliminate the Empress. Xiao Chuan asked, with the Emperor having the leader of the rebel army and your support, this kingdom will ultimately return to its rightful owner, right, Tu Yen. Tu Yen took off his hat, revealing a handsome face with sea blue eyes. He replied, that's right, Your Majesty. This land will eventually belong to you. Meanwhile, in a temple, two young monks were chatting with each other. Master has been meditating here for over a month. Could something have happened? The other monk replied, don't worry, last night I even heard Master laughing inside. The first monk admired, as expected of Master, meditating in such a dry and boring manner yet still finding joy in it. Our practice is indeed lacking. Inside, a certain master overheard their conversation and thought, fools. It's because your minds are not clear. I am constantly absorbing spiritual energy to cultivate day and night. He chanted, Namo Amitba Buddha, my heart is truly insufficient. He blushed as he glanced at the painting in the room and continued his meditation for a few more days. At that moment, Li Wan suddenly appeared behind him, calling out, Master Kong Wen. Startled, the master turned to Li Wan and said, why are you here again? I'm not doing anything else, just cultivating my Buddhist nature. Without waiting for an explanation, Li Wan grabbed him and said, come with me. I need your help. After checking the pulse, he said, you guessed correctly. The Empress is neither sick nor poisoned. This is a death curse, a tactic used by the shaman of the southern tribes. Upon hearing Master Kong Wen's words, Li Wan angrily turned to leave, determined, I will go and wipe them out. Master Kong Wen hurriedly stopped him, saying, wait a moment. Don't act recklessly. It will only put the Empress in greater danger. Li Wan turned back and asked, what do you mean? Master Kongwen explained, according to historical records, the death curse aimed at someone with the Emperor's fate can only be executed in one way. The Southman claims to use ancient techniques. They inscribe special runes onto their warriors' bodies. When these warriors die in battle, the accumulated resentment and fury turn into a curse upon the Empress. The more people who die, the more danger she will face. Chen Hai was worried, so, not only can you not take action, but the entire army of Great Land is also restricted. What a clever tactic. Li Wan replied angrily, this must be to Yan's doing. Master Kongwen suggested, I actually have a plan, but I don't know if the Empress will agree. Chen Hai and Li Wan asked in unison, what plan? Master Kongwen said, the Empress could consider surrendering at the border. We can't afford any more casualties. With your presence, they surely wouldn't dare to make things difficult for her. Li Wan reacted strongly, you crazy monk. Dream on. Ru Li would never do that. And if you suggest anything like that again, I'll burn your scriptures. Cho Ru Li sat up and firmly declared, this suggestion is absolutely unacceptable. The blood of Great Land soldiers must not be shed in vain. Chen Hai thought to himself, no wonder she's the Empress, even now, she's worried about the soldiers at the border. But then Cho Ru Li turned to Li Wan and teased, besides, all his food comes from the national treasury. If I stop being the Empress and can't support him anymore, I won't agree to this. Li Wan laughed, agreeing, we should definitely consider the soldiers at the border. I can take care of myself as well. Cho Ru Li insisted, help me get up. I still haven't approved the memorials today. Chen Hai worriedly said, Your Majesty, take care of your health. Li Wan interrupted, let's set the memorials aside for now. I actually have a good plan, but Ru Li needs to be involved too. Cho Ru Li asked, what kind of plan requires my participation? Li Wan looked at Master Kong and asked, Master, what if I directly help Ru Li bear half of the Emperor's fate? Would that work? Master Kong replied, in theory, yes, but how can one person's fate be divided between two people? Li Wan smiled and said, actually, the two of them can sometimes act as one. Meanwhile, the Southern Barbarians group was casting spells, but their leader suddenly coughed up blood due to internal injury. The Southern Barbarians behind him anxiously asked, Great Shaman, what happened? The Great Shaman wiped the blood away and said, the people of Great Land have some skill. They keep using their fate to counter the curse. The moment he finished speaking, I bled even more. A Southern Barbarians looked on and thought, the leader of the rebel army can even withstand the curse, truly impressive. The Great Shaman remained silent and said, interesting. Let's see how long you can withstand this. But as soon as he finished speaking, he coughed up even more blood. Meanwhile, Li Wan and Cho Ru Li intensified their power, causing the Great Shaman to bleed even more before collapsing to the ground. The Southern Barbarians' warriors looked at their fallen leader and shouted, Great Shaman. As he lay there, the Great Shaman thought, finally, it's over. At least the curse held for now. On the other side, Li Wan sat at the table deep in thought, realizing, if I think about it, Tu Yen has probably gone to the capital with the third prince and started making arrangements. At that moment, Cho Ru Li stepped outside, and Li Wan concernedly grasped her shoulder, asking, how are you feeling? Cho Ru Li replied, a bit better. I want to go outside for some fresh air. Li Wan thought to himself, since I've used the power of Primordial, it seems to have some effect, but unfortunately, I can't completely lift the curse. He then picked up Cho Ru Li and said, if you still feel uncomfortable, don't wander around. I'll carry you like this. Cho Ru Li asked, why do you look so happy? Li Wan immediately denied it, how could that be? You're in danger all the time now, I don't have the time to be happy. Cho Ru Li, lying in Li Wan's arms, thought, silly, I know. Right now, you're the one who's the most stressed. Usually so carefree and cheerful, but I need to lift my spirits a bit, I can't let him worry. She planned to act a little cute with him, thinking, after all, no one is watching. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Li Zuj entered, calling, Sister Ru Li. Both Li Wan and Cho Ru Li immediately snapped out of their intimate moment. Li Wan cleared his throat to cover it up, ahem, what brings you here? Li Zuj replied, I heard a strange sound coming from your house earlier and thought there was a thief, but by the time I got here, the sound had disappeared. Li Wan let out an awkward laugh. That's right, just earlier, your sister Ru Li fought the thief in a battle of 300 rounds. In his heart, he thought, oh. Looks like from now on, we might have to sleep in separate beds at night. Li Zuj, suspicious, asked, no, something still seems strange. Are you two hiding something from me, Li Wan? Hearing such a direct question, he couldn't deny it right away. No, kids shouldn't overthink things. Li Zuj shook her head, shattering his illusion. What are you talking about, master of the house? I was talking about something on Sister Ru Li. Li Wan asked in surprise, What do you mean? Li Zuj's eyes widened. Sister Ru Li, why have you been cursed with witchcraft? Li Wan was astonished. You know about this and can even see it? In his heart, he thought. This hasn't been revealed to anyone yet, how could she know? Li Zuj giggled, feeling noticed for the first time. You too, think again, I'm not just a simple girl. Li Wan asked, so is there a way to resolve this? Li Zuj put her hands on her hips and confidently replied, of course there is. First, you could directly kill the one who cast the spell. Second, you could use multiple people to share the burden and resist its effects. Li Wan nodded. I already tried the second method, but it couldn't completely remove the curse. Li Zuj asked curiously, did you really do that? What method did you two use? Li Wan said, kids shouldn't be asking about grown-up matters. Li Zuj teased with a playful smile, I was thinking of using witchcraft to counter the curse, but I've never actually done it before, so I'm not sure if it'll work. After all, I only know the theory. Li Wan chuckled, even a master of theory can say something valuable. A bronze can still offer advice to a king. You seem reliable enough. Confident, Li Zuj rolled up her sleeves, even though I don't fully understand what you're saying, it sounds like a compliment. Leave it to me. She quickly dashed off, time is tight, I need to go prepare. As Li Zuj ran off, Cho Ru Li said, it might not work, but she has such a kind heart, and that makes me happy. Li Wan smiled, reassuring her, don't worry, nothing will happen to you. Besides, she reminded me of another plan. Standing atop a tall building, Li Wan held a map in his hand and said, they will surely protect their sorcerer. The Earth soldiers are just pawns meant for sacrifice. This enemy formation map shows that their forces are concentrated in the western mountains. The area encircled by the Earth soldiers is southern Barbarians Valley, which has only one exit and is the safest place for them. Li Wan took out a spear and muttered to himself, 1,000 miles to the southwest, the altitude is 3,400 meters above sea level. Pythagoras' theorem and cubic functions have both helped me here. Using everything I've learned, the sorcerer's location must be right there. He threw the spear with precision. In the enemy's camp, the Grand Sorcerer lay unconscious. Tu Yen was checking the men's pulse and noted, his pulse is steady. After all, he's the leader, but who knows what other tricks he has up his sleeve. Just then, Tu Yen sensed something wrong. In a flash, he caught the spear just as it was about to pierce the Grand Sorcerer's face. Blood dripped from Tu Yan's hand as he looked at the spear and remarked, this is a long spear used exclusively by the Imperial guards, flown here from 1,000 miles away. I've truly underestimated your power. You are indeed a formidable opponent, Chief. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Cho Ru Li and Li Wan were watching Li Zuj perform a ritual dance. Li Wan, standing beside Cho Ru Li, asked, how are you feeling now? Cho Ru Li said, I don't feel anything at all. Li Wan muttered, it seems that the long spear earlier didn't directly kill the sorcerer of southern barbarians. I messed up. He glanced at Li Zuj and sighed, now, I can only place my hopes in this foolish child. As Li Zuj continued her dance, Li Wan asked, why did you choose this place? Li Zuj paused and replied, because I want to borrow the power of the Great Land's dragon veins, and based on feng shui, this is the spot where the dragon veins of the Great Land flow. You two just lie there and hold hands. Whether this works or not, we'll find out this time. Cho Ru Li and Li Wan lay down in the ritual circle, holding each other's hands tightly. Li Zuj resumed her dance, chanting incomprehensible incantations. Not long after, a blinding light descended upon them, and suddenly, Li Wan found himself floating in the air. Am I a spirit with holes in my soul? He wondered aloud. Looking at his hands, he joked, could it be that Li Zuj accidentally cursed me to death? Maybe I should head home and check. In the blink of an eye, Li Wan found himself back in his own room. He exclaimed, that was fast. Is the speed of a spirit really this quick? I got here in an instant. His eyes landed on a locked cabinet, and he thought to himself, now that I'm in spirit form, can I pass through walls? He looked at the mysterious cabinet, the one Cho Ru Li had always forbidden him from opening. His curiosity piqued, he mused, I wonder what she's hiding in there. I might as well take a peek. When Li Wan saw the letters inside, he realized, these are the love letters I wrote to her years ago. And the small gifts I gave her too. No wonder she never let me see this, always so prideful. Just then, loud roars echoed from outside, startling Li Wan. He quickly flew out and was shocked to see a massive dragon. Confused, Li Wan asked, is this the golden dragon? The dragon roared again, and as Li Wan's spirit hovered in the air, he wondered, are you asking me to follow you? He floated after the dragon, which led him to the camp of the southern barbarians people. As he arrived, he realized, wait, this is the hideout of that cursed sorcerer. In the southern barbarians' camp, the Grand Sorcerer was furiously shouting, curse you. You've left me in this miserable state, I won't forgive you, you dog emperor. Just then, Li Wan's spirit appeared, hovering coldly in the room. He said, "You won't get the chance." With that, he materialized a sword and slashed, striking the sorcerer's soul. The Grand Sorcerer, startled, cried, "How are you here?" He called out, "Guards." But before he could act, Li Wan's blade struck him down, killing him instantly. Li Wan looked at the sorcerer's body and remarked, "You cursed my wife. A single slash isn't too much, right?" At that moment, Tu Yen pulled back the tent flap and entered, asking, "What happened?" Li Wan turned to face him and said, "Tu Yen? Long time no see, but it seems my time is up." His spirit body slowly began to fade. Tu Yen gazed at the faint figure of Li Wan and sighed, "Chief, I'll come find you later. Then we can reminisce about old times." After Li Wan's spirit disappeared, Tu Yen glanced at the Grand Sorcerer's corpse and gasped, "The Grand Sorcerer, dead?" With a hint of amusement, he added, as expected of the chief. "He always does what no one else can." Meanwhile, back in the palace, Li Wan, who had been lying asleep, was suddenly slapped awake. He clutched his face and exclaimed, "That slap was pretty strong. Looks like I've fully recovered." Zhou Ruli stood over him, scolding, "You finally woke up. Was your soul full of holes or something? I've been calling you for ages, but you wouldn't wake up." Li Wan smiled, "You weren't wrong. I even saw the dragon veins of the great land. I think we make a perfect pair. You're an amazing empress." Zhou Ruli teased back, "Should I recruit 3,000 concubines for you then?" Li Wan chuckled, "Don't be mad, I haven't finished. I just went to the southern barbarians' border and personally killed the sorcerer who cursed you." Zhou Ruli, skeptical, replied, "Stop daydreaming in broad daylight. Are you still not fully awake?" Li Wan asked with a grin, "What if I really did? Maybe next time we can change the location of our reward, like the Imperial Library?" Zhou Ruli blushed, scolding, "How shameless." But then she softened and admitted, "Though, I do feel a bit better now." Gently, she suggested, "Come on, I'll take you to the Imperial kitchen. I'll have them prepare 10 dishes for you." Just as they were about to leave, Li Zuj suddenly interrupted, "No way." Hearing the protest, both Li Wan and Zhou Ruli thought, "Has this child finally learned to be considerate and responsible?" But Li Zuj quickly added, "At the very least, you shouldn't limit it to just breakfast, lunch, dinner, and supper for 365 days in the Imperial kitchen. When it comes to food, I absolutely don't compromise." Zhou Ruli and Li Wan both sighed, thinking, as expected, as soon as food is mentioned, her true nature shows. The next day, as the sun rose high, Qianhai rushed into the Imperial Library to report, "Your Majesty, good news. The Grand Sorcerer of Southern Barbarians is dead." Zhou Ruli asked, "How did he die?" Her thoughts raced. Could it be that what Li Wan said was true? Qianhai explained, "According to the Crown Prince's report from the Grand Hall of Southern Barbarians, the Grand Sorcerer didn't have a single wound on his body. It seems he died of natural causes." Zhou Ruli stood up, making a quick decision, "Let's change locations. Help me with these reports." Puzzled, Qianhai asked, "What is your Majesty planning?" Zhou Ruli, outwardly composed, replied, "Just changing the work environment." But inwardly, she thought, "I can't stay in the Imperial Library for a while, or else my imperial authority will be completely undermined." Meanwhile, elsewhere, Zhao Chuan was seething with rage. "Damn it. The whole plan is in ruins. We were just one step away. It's all because of that treacherous fool's meddling. When my time comes, I'll make sure to kill him." Tu Yen, calm as ever, responded, "Rest assured, Your Majesty. The ghost has emerged from seclusion. I've already sent him to infiltrate Southern Guardian Prince's returning convoy to the capital." Zhao Chuan nodded in satisfaction. "Very good. We'll take this opportunity to strike at the heart of Great Land. This time, we absolutely cannot afford to fail." Meanwhile, in the palace courtyard, Zhou Ruli was sweeping while Li Wan stood beside her, gently fanning to keep her cool. Li Wan asked curiously, "Why do you insist on doing the housework yourself? And you don't even want my help?" Zhou Ruli smiled and replied, "Doing this makes me feel like I'm in control of our home. This is our house, so of course I should tidy it up. Even if it's scorching hot today, I don't know if I'll end up getting tanned." Li Wan, with a gentle smile, reassured her, "Don't worry, no matter what, you're always beautiful." Zhou Ruli playfully teased, "So, even if my skin turns darker and I grow old, it's okay." Li Wan quickly responded, "How could that be? What I mean is, as long as it's you, you'll always be the most beautiful in my heart." Li Wan thought for a moment, feeling that something was off, but before he could say anything, Zhou Ruli continued, "You better not criticize me when I grow old." He patted her shoulder and promised, "Don't worry. I know of some herbal remedies for beauty. I'll ask the Imperial kitchen to prepare them for you when we return." Zhou Ruli hesitated and said, "Huh? Thinking about Li Zuj eating her way through the Imperial kitchen, do you really believe a girl could finish an entire kitchen by herself? Just then, Li Zuj appeared, her cheeks round like two buns. She asked, Master, Ru Li's sister, have you eaten yet? Li Wan laughed and replied, don't mind us. You seem to be enjoying your food. But why do you look like a giant hamster? Li Zuj chuckled, isn't this a buffet at the Imperial kitchen? I can only eat at home. I just said, to avoid starving outside, I've hidden food in my cheeks. Thank goodness I'm thick-skinned. Li Wan raised an eyebrow and asked, if you're not full, then finish eating before you go. Is there something up? He thought to himself, good thing I didn't let her eat freely before. Li Zuj hurriedly said, wait, let me finish eating first. Once she was done, she sighed in relief, now we can talk much more easily. Then, she explained, it's just that the food from the Imperial kitchen has been a bit repetitive these past few days, so I wanted to change it up. Li Wan asked, are you tired of it already? What do you want to eat instead? Li Zuj casually replied, I heard there's a train bringing southern barbarian specialties to Great Land today. I love southern barbarians' food the most. Cho Ru Li asked curiously, have you eaten southern barbarians' food before? Li Zuj proudly answered, of course. Back at my house, we always had it. I ate it every day when I was little. Li Zuj excitedly said, Ru Li's sister has invited me to eat at the Imperial kitchen for many days, so now it's my turn to treat you. Cho Ru Li smiled, then I'll give it a try. I've never eaten southern barbarians' food before. She thought to herself, this child really has a good heart. After that, Li Zuj led Li Wan and Cho Ru Li to the food stall near the southern barbarians' train. Li Wan cheerfully suggested, Ru Li's sister, try this. It's really delicious. But when he saw the platter filled with long, many-legged centipedes, he immediately became suspicious. Is this really southern barbarians' cuisine? You're not trying to assassinate us with this, are you? Li Zuj introduced, these are fruit-eating insects, a specialty of southern barbarians. They specifically eat fresh fruits, and they taste really good. Li Wan quickly replied, I'm feeling a bit queasy today, why don't you have it instead? Cho Ru Li added, coincidentally, I feel the same way. Without hesitation, Li Zuj picked up the entire platter of insects and dumped them into her mouth. Li Wan looked at the train behind them and commented, but this train can transport quite a lot. Cho Ru Li answered, in one day, it can carry thousands of people, it's very important for transportation now. Li Wan turned on his charm and said, this train must have been your idea, right? The old emperor would never have thought of this. He then asked, why did you want to create this? Cho Ru Li replied half-jokingly, back then, I thought you hadn't experienced much of the world and had never left the capital in your life. Li Wan continued, so. Cho Ru Li smiled and said, so I wanted to show you the whole world. Li Wan was momentarily speechless. Cho Ru Li quickly added, you fool, of course I was joking. This is a national project, how could I build a railway just for you? Li Wan laughed, even if you were joking, it still makes me happy. Cho Ru Li became serious again, saying, alright, it's not completely a lie. When I first mentioned it, I really did think of you. Later on, when we have time, we can travel around the world together. Li Wan replied, what a coincidence. I was thinking about hacking a train and taking you around the world. Cho Ru Li laughed and said, then let's make a promise. Li Wan pretended to ponder, can I hack a train now? I wonder if stealing a train from our own family would get me caught. Cho Ru Li shook her head, not that. I just meant traveling around the world. Li Wan grinned, of course I know, you silly girl. You tricked me, so I have to trick you back. He then said earnestly, but that's not a trick. I promise, I will take you around the world. Hearing this, Cho Ru Li extended her pinky and said, then let's make a pinky swear. If our thumbs touch, we'll never change. As they sealed their promise, a loud scream echoed, help. People started to scatter in panic. Li Wan looked around, confused, what's happening? At that moment, a group of burly men and a silver-haired, bearded man along with his henchmen were whipping the backs of the civilians. One of the men shouted, a bunch of peasants. If you don't want to die, get lost. The silver-haired man coldly added, that's right. You peasants should know your place. What right do you have to ride the same train as me? He continued to crack his whip in the air, laughing loudly, this train belongs to Lord Huang. You peasants should be grateful. Li Wan couldn't contain his anger, demanding, who is that silver-haired man? Cho Ru Li replied, he's the Southern Guardian Prince. He's been at the border for a long time. If we talk about bloodlines, he's my uncle. He didn't come when I ascended to the throne, but I heard he came this time to congratulate me. She speculated, maybe he returned to the capital because of the chaos at the border. Li Wan frowned, another one from the old Cho family? It's no surprise they're acting so arrogantly with the border in chaos. He then questioned, What exactly is this Southern Guardian Prince guarding? Is he supposed to be like a beauty? What a disgrace. Cho-Ru Li chuckled, if that's the case, then having me by your side every day is also a disgrace, right? Li Wan quickly shot back, not at all. You're just draining the strength of the common people. That's an extra 2 charges. Cho-Ru Li crossed her arms, pretending to be angry, then I won't stay with you anymore. You're just busy reviewing memorials all day. Li Wan hastily replied, don't say that. If that's the case, it'd be if I don't go to hell, who will? Just take your anger out on me. Meanwhile, the Southern Guardian Prince commanded, someone, move these goods to my estate. They'll be added to the treasury. The merchants pleaded anxiously, Your Excellency, these are our belongings. Please return them. The Southern Guardian Prince raised his whip, ready to strike. This is the decision of the prince. Do you dare oppose me? But before the whip could come down, it was suddenly intercepted. The Southern Guardian Prince exclaimed in shock, where did my whip go? Li Wan grinned, holding the Southern Guardian Prince's whip. Your whip is right here in my hand. The Southern Guardian Prince shouted angrily, you impudent brat. Hand it over, or I'll have thunder strike you down. He thought to himself, who is this kid to dare snatch my whip? Did I lose my focus or something? Cho-Ru Li stepped forward, her voice icy. Southern Guardian Prince, is this how you display your authority upon arriving in the capital? The prince, startled, looked at her and exclaimed, Your Majesty. Cho-Ru Li asked sternly, do you even recognize your sovereign? Quickly changing his tone, the Southern Guardian Prince clasped his hands together and said, Your Majesty, it's all a misunderstanding. I merely wanted to drive away some commoners, and I used harsh words. He continued, this train is quite impressive. When I return, I'll build my own railway. After all, giving the commoners jobs is a good thing, right? Cho-Ru Li pressed further, Southern Guardian Prince, this train is not yours, it is a national asset of great land. How can you claim it for yourself? Li Wan chimed in, exactly. The Southern Guardian Prince thinks, it's just a small amount of money from the treasury. If funds are short, we can raise taxes. It's no big deal. Li Wan leaned closer to Cho-Ru Li, whispering, so everyone from the Chu family, except for you, is a traitor to the state. Cho-Ru Li pondered, could it be that the bloodline of the Chu family is really this bad? What kind of foolish relatives do I have? The Southern Warden King looked at Li Wan, puzzled, and asked, is this the husband of the Empress, the legendary leader of the rebel army? He smiled and added, I am the Southern Warden King, I have heard your name for a long time. Truly, a young hero. Holding the riding whip in his hand, Li Wan replied, heard my name for a long time? This whip isn't bad, can I borrow it? The Southern Warden King chuckled, you have a good eye. This whip of mine is not ordinary. If you strike someone with it, it might just tear them apart. Li Wan pretended not to believe him, asking, really? I don't believe you. Are you trying to fool me? The Southern Warden King replied, can it be faked? He pointed at a few nearby villagers. Isn't there a target right there? You can give it a try. Li Wan laughed and said, thank you for the reminder. Then I'll just follow your suggestion. The Southern Warden King sneered and replied, no need to be polite, being hit by the leader of the rebel army is an honor for them. But just as he finished speaking, Li Wan struck him squarely in the face with the whip. Furious, the Southern Warden King yelled, are you blind? Why hit me? Hit them instead. Li Wan smiled and explained, sorry, I've been a rebel for a long time, it's just a bad habit. Li Wan thought to himself, this old man is quite interesting. I wonder how I should play with him. Meanwhile, the Southern Warden King was also thinking, this silly country bumpkin is just the Empress's male favorite. I need to find a chance to embarrass him. Li Wan began to notice someone standing behind the Southern Warden King and wondered, who is that? Why does he want to run away when I make a move? He's not my target. I've clearly concealed my killing intent, what is he afraid of? Does he think I'll attack him? The Southern Warden King looked at Cho-Ru Li and pointed at several crates, saying, Your Majesty, I couldn't come when you ascended the throne. These are all gifts for you. Cho-Ru Li declined, saying, I appreciate your good intentions, but these things, Southern Warden King, should be returned directly to the people. After that, you should head back to the borders. The Southern Warden King replied with a smile, I will gladly obey your orders. But inwardly, he thought, what a pretentious act, truly ungrateful. He then led his subordinates away, saying, let's go. Li Wan comforted Cho-Ru Li, saying, don't be angry, every family has its share of foolish relatives. Cho-Ru Li frowned and replied, he's a complete idiot. Why should I be angry with him? I'll send someone to keep an eye on him. If he leaves the capital directly, it'll be better to avoid any trouble. Li Wan chuckled, there's nothing to worry about. Worst case, there'll just be an incident where no one finds the body. Cho-Ru Li looked at him seriously, You have some reputation in the military, don't cause a scene. Feigning innocence, Li Wan grinned. Huh? What are you saying? I can't understand. Ru Li shot him a glare and coldly said, do you want me to send you to guard the borders? Li Wan laughed, alright, I'll just continue being the government's tool. You'll always take care of me, right? Ru Li scoffed, dream on. At that moment, a soldier trailing behind the southern warden king was sweating profusely, thinking, this is dangerous. Have I been exposed? But I must stay calm. The strength he showed isn't as strong as the legends say. Besides, with my current strength, even if Tu Chen Heis came, I would still win. Everything is still under control. At the dining table, Ru Li was conversing with Li Wan. After hearing her, he asked, you want me to attend the banquet? Ru Li picked up some food and replied, yes, the situation at the borders has been tense recently. This is to stabilize the people's hearts. Attending the state banquet with me could also threaten them. Li Wan agreed, no problem. When the time comes, I'll stand by your side, and whoever comes, I'll bite them. He thought to himself, we should have done this earlier. Just tell them outright, if you want to rebel, go ahead, we'll see each other later. Ru Li looked at him and said, you're not a dog, why do you talk as if I'm a tyrant? Li Wan replied, how could that be? I meant a righteous partner. You're righteous too. As they talked, Li Zuj kept eating. Li Wan gave a thumbs up to his wife, thinking, my wife still has the kindest heart. Ru Li reflected, I want them to see how formidable my husband is, then see if they dare to be indignant but say nothing. Li Wan responded, then it's decided. The food is getting cold, we should hurry and eat. But when they looked down at the table, they both exclaimed, ha, where's the food? Li Zuj, with her chubby cheeks, said, eating is like battling, you two are too weak to win. Li Wan pinched her cheek and said, you say that to the most formidable person in the world? Ever since I saved Ru Li, you've certainly become much more arrogant. Li Zuj giggled, with Ru Li protecting me, of course, I'm not afraid. But Li Wan countered, oh, are you sure? With Ru Li's armies, I just need one finger. Before he could finish, Ru Li crossed her arms and coldly said, humph, why didn't you just storm the capital back then? Li Wan explained, of course, it's because I'm a pacifist. I hate violence. Now that I'm inside the enemy's territory and Ru Li loves me so deeply, this is the strategy of personal strength. Ru Li darkly asked, what did you say? I didn't hear clearly, can you repeat it? Li Wan immediately changed his tone, smiling, of course, your Ru Li is the most formidable. You think I'm strong, but when it comes to Ru Li, I have to obediently follow her orders. Li Zuj remarked, the host is really weak. Li Wan thought to himself, I feel like if I were in my previous world without any inner strength, she would knock me out and drag me to the civil affairs office to register for marriage right away. On the main road, the blonde man, one of the Southern Suppression Prince's soldiers, walked while thinking, I need to be confident. Previously, when I sensed the leader's strength, I could still manage it. Right now, I need to figure out the escape route after the assassination of the emperor. I could get away. This man, named Tu Chi, was the strongest strategist of the remnants of the previous dynasty. Since childhood, his swordsmanship had been devilishly uncanny, shifting unpredictably, earning him the nickname Sword Demon. However, he had never gained fame because of a fatal flaw. As he walked down the street, a passerby exclaimed, is that really a ghost? Tu Chi, startled, thought, has my identity as the Sword Demon been exposed? How could an ordinary citizen of Great Land know who I am? Great Land is truly frightening. Did Tian send me here to harm me? Should I run? He must be envious of my talents and wants to set me up. There's definitely a conspiracy. Unexpectedly, the citizen said, this tool I just bought is already broken? Truly encountering a ghost. Tu Chi thought to himself, so that's how it is, looks like I was overthinking. But being cautious of others isn't a bad thing. Externally, Tu Chi appeared extremely confident, yet he suffered from severe paranoia, always teetering on the edge of collapse. As he walked, he saw Li Zuj coming out with a chicken leg and said, it seems eating until 80% full is best. Tu Chi stared at her and thought, this brat. Isn't she the one who was next to the emperor during the day? I'm really lucky. Li Zuj noticed Tu Chi looking at her and thought, what kind of weirdo is this? Why does he keep staring at me? Is he planning to steal my food? Tu Chi prepared to act, planning to capture her first and then deal with the emperor's man. But suddenly, he knelt down, thinking, what? This girl has such strong aura? Could she be the secret weapon of that cursed emperor? The final weapon of Great Land? Li Zuj approached the man kneeling on the ground and thought, is he here to steal my chicken leg? Is he begging? Even if he pleads, I won't give it to him. Inside the house, Li Wan was performing a spell on the wall when Ru Li came out and asked, what are you doing with your hand on the wall? Li Wan replied mysteriously, there's a thief outside. I want to scare him. Tuchi, still kneeling, thought, I truly wasn't cautious enough. This world is really too dangerous. That girl is next to the Emperor because she has strength that surpasses that cursed rogue. Tears streamed down his face as he told himself, I'm so foolish, I must have fallen into a trap. They've been scheming against me all along. Li Zuj noticed the tears flowing down his cheeks and thought, he's crying. Does he want to eat my chicken leg? How long has it been since he last ate? With that thought, she tossed the chicken leg onto the ground and said, Humph, consider this a good mood of mine, eat quickly. Although she felt a pang of guilt, but Mr. Tu was thinking, she dare forcing me to eat a chicken leg off the ground has completely stripped me of my dignity. Young and cruel like this, it's terrifying. But at least she spares my life. He stood up and looked at Li Zuj's back, asking, May I ask your name? Li Zuj coolly replied, Li Zuj. Don't let me see you again. Tuchi added, Thank you. On the high wall, Li Wan observed him, thinking, that's the guy from earlier, indeed very strange. He's probably sent by Tian. Now that I know of your existence, it's easier to handle you, might as well exploit this useless pawn a bit. At the banquet, the officials were seated at their tables, discussing among themselves. One official asked, Mr. Hua, is the rumor true? Mr. Hua replied, as subjects, we do as the Emperor says. Why overthink it? He took a sip of tea. Meanwhile, Tuchi sat behind Southern Suppression Prince, his mind racing with thoughts, stay calm, I can definitely handle the leader of the rebel army. The real danger is that girl from the Li family. Besides, my plan is flawless, it will surely succeed. At that moment, a servant announced, the Emperor has arrived. All the officials stood up respectfully to greet him. Li Wan, standing beside Cho Ru Li, reminded her, you caught a slight cold last night, don't drink anything cold. Cho Ru Li smiled and replied, got it. Below, Mr. Hua clasped his hands and asked, Your Majesty, may I inquire who is seated beside you from the Huang family? Li Wan cast a glance at Mr. Hua and replied, You're quite aware of this, old man. Thank you, Mr. Hua. Mr. Hua returned the look and said, You flatter me, leader. Cho Ru Li interjected, Isn't this question one you all already know the answer to? The officials below thought to themselves, the rumors are indeed true. Some recalled that there had never been a precedent like this, especially since Li Wan was once the leader of the rebel army. Southern Warden King slammed his hand on the table and shouted, This is against the traditional rights of our ancestors. Many other officials echoed, Indeed. Someone remarked, Is Southern Warden King really this brave? Southern Suppression Prince, quite inebriated, scoffed and said, A rebel can actually ascend to the throne? Truly, this is against our traditions. Meanwhile, Tuchi quietly smiled to himself, thinking, Ha ha, it's a success. The potion I used has truly driven Southern Warden King mad. While he distracts everyone, I will silently assassinate the dog emperor. With that thought, Tuchi raised his hand and charged towards Cho Ru Li, shouting, Dog emperor, prepare to die. The officials cried out, There's an assassin. Quick, protect the emperor. Li Wan immediately stood in front of Cho Ru Li. Tuchi, still convinced of his victory, thought that his name would echo throughout the world. However, he was taken aback when a single punch from Li Wan sent him flying. What was he dreaming? Tuchi fell to the ground, gritting his teeth as he said, How could this be? The aura he emitted was clearly extremely ordinary. Could it be that he defeated me without exerting much effort? Looking up at the two above him, Tuchi shouted, I underestimated you, but while you can protect the dog emperor, can you also protect those dog officials? The officials, in a panic, thought to themselves, Please don't make us hostages, save us. Li Wan, slightly confused, glanced at the officials and said, Gentlemen, your glorious deeds are immortalized. The Emperor will definitely record your names in history to live on forever. The officials inwardly grumbled, You're clearly using us as scapegoats. At that moment, Li Wan made a suggestion, however, the national treasury is currently empty. If there are any understanding individuals, perhaps they could contribute some funds to the treasury at this time. Before he could finish, the officials began to compete with each other. My family has just unearthed an ancient mine, I will donate everything. Another official chimed in, I have a block of gold ore, I want to contribute too. Someone even shouted, You old fool, don't compete with me, I'll donate as well. Tuchi's jaw dropped in shock as he thought, How can this be? This guy doesn't care at all about the lives of the officials. All he could do was think of a way to escape. But as he ran, he froze in fear, questioning, What's happening? Why is there suddenly that familiar killing intent? It's her. Why is she blocking my escape route? Meanwhile, Li Zuj sat staring intently at the chicken, thinking, Why hasn't Ru Li's sister fed me yet? As a young lady of etiquette, I can't embarrass my sister. Ugh, I'm about to starve to death. On the other side, Tu Chi was overthinking to an extreme degree, musing, why is there such terrifying killing intent, yet I didn't notice it? I get it, I'm just a clown. He's so calm because he has left a way out for a monster stronger than himself to be in my escape route. I'm doomed. They would surely use their torturous methods on him, making his life worse than death. Consumed by his own thoughts, Tu Chi coughed up blood and collapsed, dying from a ruptured liver. The officials looked at Tu Chi's lifeless body, bewildered, and asked each other, did he poison himself to death? Mr. Hua explained, no, this type of poison wouldn't cause a strong fighter to die like that. I clearly saw him killed by the emperor's husband with just a glance. The officials grew even more frightened, thinking, is it possible to take a life with just a look? They bowed their heads, shouting, long live the emperor. Long live the empress. From above, Cho Ru Li remarked, I have the long live title, so why do you get to say long live too? Li Wan thought, wait, the real issue is that I've become the empress, right? The rumor about Li Wan being able to kill with a glance quickly spread throughout the world. Meanwhile, at the border, soldiers guarding the city walls were chatting. A young soldier asked an older one, why hasn't there been any movement from the southern barbarians for so many days? Are they scared? The older soldier replied, they're just a bunch of southern barbarians. Our southern barbarian city has never been breached, and it won't be now or in the future. Just then, the ground suddenly shook violently. The young soldier exclaimed, what's happening? The older soldier replied, an earthquake? The wall where they stood began to crack, and the older soldier shouted, this is bad. The wall is about to collapse. The young soldier panicked, it's not just here, the city of Zhen is also severely affected. In the distance, Zhao Chuan watched as the city walls crumbled and said, look. From Yan is truly formidable, this is the power we have now. A power that can destroy everything. Tu Yan sighed behind him, it's a pity so many innocent lives are caught in this disaster. Zhao Chuan, unfazed, scoffed, cities can be rebuilt, the dead can be replaced. As long as this world ultimately belongs to me, I will create a perfect nation, even if it means sacrificing more lives. He spread his arms and laughed, my kingdom. Ha ha. Tu Yan nodded in agreement, as long as your majesty is satisfied. Meanwhile, Cho Ru Li rested her head on Li Wan's shoulder. He gazed at the peaceful scenery before him and asked, is this the most beautiful view you wanted to see? Cho Ru Li replied, of course not. She tightened her grip on his hand. Confused, Li Wan asked, why not? I don't understand. She said, it's because it's great land, so I am the most beautiful view. Li Wan countered, that can't be right. Pouting, Cho Ru Li asked, what's wrong with that? Li Wan declared, to me, you are the most beautiful scenery in this world. Cho Ru Li smiled, you're even more smooth-tongued than I am. Li Wan replied proudly, that's called confidence. At that moment, Chen Hai rushed in, anxious, Your Majesty, urgent news has just come from the border. Cho Ru Li turned to ask, what is it? Chen Hai reported, the city of Southern has been breached. Cho Ru Li was taken aback and asked, how could the iron walls of Great Land be breached? Is this true? Chen Hai explained, according to the surviving soldiers, there was an earthquake in the city that caused total destruction. Cho Ru Li asked again, an earthquake? Chen Hai added, not only that, but there are rumors spreading along the border that this earthquake is a punishment from the gods for going against the will of heaven. Cho Ru Li gasped, what? Li Wan, beside her, lightly patted her shoulder, reassuring her, dear, don't get angry. Getting angry won't make you any cuter. Li Wan turned to explain, as for the punishment, it's just feudal superstition. If I'm not mistaken, it's likely the remnants of the previous dynasty. I once had a weapon in the rebel army called a seismic machine. It can create large tremors using qi, causing earthquakes. Chen Hai and Cho Ru Li both said, so you are the mastermind behind this. Li Wan said, perhaps Tu Yan has created one based on my method. I just provided the idea. Cho Ru Li asked, what is the casualty situation at the border now? Chen Hai replied, the casualties are unquantifiable. Furthermore, they are in great fear, some have even sought refuge with the southern barbarians. Cho Ru Li ordered, immediately distribute food and use the treasury funds to help the people. Chen Hai hesitated, saying, but the treasury of Great Land is truly empty after the Huang affair and the chaotic fighting at the border. It may be difficult to continue. Li Wan reminded him, have you forgotten? During that banquet, those ministers supported us quite a bit, especially Southern Suppression Prince, who donated a lot to sever ties. Now is the right time to use that money to save the people. The rest, just leave it to me to handle. Cho Ru Li asked worriedly, what do you plan to do? We still don't know the enemy's situation. Li Wan answered, this seismic machine can be used again after its first use. We can't let innocent people suffer any longer. The quickest way to resolve this issue is for me to take the field myself. Cho Ru-li cautioned, then you must be careful. Li Wan reassured her, don't worry, even if great land falls, I won't. Cho Ru-li warned, if you get hurt, one injury will cost you a year's worth of pocket money. Li Wan rubbed his face and sighed, there wasn't much to begin with, so I'll have to save a bit. He turned to Chen Hai and said, Little Chen, come with me to the border. It's time to deal with this once and for all. At the border, the flames of war erupted. The southern barbarian soldiers disguised themselves as great land troops, slaughtering countless innocent civilians. One great land soldier callously killed an innocent person, sneering, get in my way, and you deserve to die. An old man holding his grandchild, witnessing the horrific scene, exclaimed, why are you, clearly soldiers of great land, robbing us of our food and killing your own people? The soldier replied coldly, why? This is the order of the emperor. The salaries and rations of the former army are insufficient, and as citizens, you must pay your dues. The old man knelt down and pleaded, official, please spare us some food. Give us a chance to survive. But at that moment, an arrow shot through the old man's chest, causing him to collapse and die instantly. The child screamed in fear, Grandpa! Grandpa! The soldier looked at the archer and shouted, Aluan, are you stupid? We need to let them live. The archer chuckled, sorry, I haven't killed anyone in a while, so I couldn't hold back. The boy realized immediately and yelled, you are from southern barbarians, not great land. The sword-wielding soldier said, exposed, then let's deal with you too. The girl squeezed her eyes shut in fear, thinking, why are we suffering like this when we haven't done anything? Is there no one to save us? But as she waited, she felt no blade strike her. Instead, she heard the panicked shout of the soldier. She opened her eyes to see the soldier lying on the ground. She asked, what just happened? Li Wan, accompanied by Chen Hai, approached and asked, little girl, are you okay? The girl looked at Li Wan and asked, are you sent by the gods? Li Wan smiled, no, I am a servant of the emperor. The southern barbarian soldiers, seeing Li Wan and Chen Hai, shouted, who dares to kill us? Chen Hai glanced at them coldly and said, another group of fools, no need for many words. Li Wan looked at the girl and said, your mother is still alive. Here, take this pill and give it to her. Your grandfather will be fine too. He gently stroked the girl's hair and said, listen to your big brother, close your eyes, count to 3, and then open them, okay? He thought, this bloody scene isn't for little ones to see. After a long scream, the southern barbarian soldiers were all killed in the forest. Chen Hai, worried, said, you gave that precious soul-reviving pill to the girl, didn't you? Li Wan continued to smile and said, is there a problem? Chen Hai replied, nothing. It's just that this medicine was given to you by His Majesty to protect your life, and I didn't expect you to give it away like that. Li Wan gently said, no one should go through this at such a young age. If fate brings me to them, I will definitely help. Chen Hai frowned, and Li Wan asked, why the frown? Chen Hai answered, it's nothing. I just think that even as a rebel, you're truly someone worth learning from. It's no wonder you could defeat great land. It's not just brute force or determination, but the kindness that unites the people. As they walked, Chen Hai analyzed, the remnants of the previous dynasty and the southern barbarians people are indeed cruel, coming up with such vicious schemes. This might also be due to your old friend Tu Yan's tricks. Li Wan held on to his idealized image of his friend. If it were the Tu Yan I knew, he would never do such things. He would never involve innocent people in this. As they walked, Li Wan suddenly stopped and said, but I've discovered something. Chen Hai asked, what is it? Li Wan pointed to the ground, look down there. Do you know what this is? Chen Hai observed and said, it's just dirt. What's so special about it? Li Wan replied, try poking it with your hand and see what you smell. Chen Hai did as instructed, feeling the soft earth and noticing a strong odor. He exclaimed, what in the world is this? Li Wan replied, this is horse manure, also known as the treasure of horses. Chen Hai, irritated, said, are you joking with me? Be careful, or I'll turn against you. Li Wan quickly clarified, I'm trying to enhance your battlefield knowledge. This type of manure is still fresh, and judging by its quality, it's from high-grade forage. It likely comes from the cavalry of the Dai Nan army, within 1,000 miles. Chen Hai asked, you can deduce all this just from horse manure. Li Wan answered, it's just experience. Realizing the opportunity was at hand, Chen Hai said, I need to hurry back to gather our forces and wipe them out in one go. You stay here. Li Wan refused, I can't wait. I'm going to deal with them myself. Chen Hai stopped him, saying, are you out of your mind? The enemy forces could be over 100,000 strong. No matter how skilled you are, you can't wipe them all out. I've promised the emperor to ensure your safety. Li Wan replied seriously, Little Chen, if I wait for you to bring reinforcements, even more innocent people will suffer at their hands. I can't destroy an army of 100,000, but I can instill fear deep in their souls. At the southern barbarians' camp, 2 sentry soldiers were standing on the watchtower, observing from a distance. One blue-haired southern barbarian soldier remarked, Another fool has come looking for death. Far away, the 2 southern barbarian soldiers spotted a blurry figure, Li Wan, marching alone toward them. The blonde soldier commented, Maybe this guy is out of his mind. As the 2 focused, they realized Li Wan had vanished. They puzzled over, where did he go? Did he run away? Just then, they saw his figure reappear, standing outside their camp, beneath the watchtower. Startled, they watched as Li Wan raised his fist and slammed it into the ground, causing the earth to tremble. Even the barricade and watchtower shook, and part of a tent collapsed under the force. Li Wan strode confidently into the camp. The sentry soldiers brandishing their swords stared in disbelief. One shouted, We have 100,000 troops. Why should we fear him? Li Wan glanced at a sword stuck nearby and pulled it out. It was the very sword used by the southern barbarian soldiers. As they charged at him with axes and spears, he swung the sword a few times, effortlessly dispatching them. With bloodied blade in hand, the remaining sentries trembled in fear. Li Wan raised his sword high, cutting through the enemy ranks. Tents collapsed under his assault, and the remaining soldiers screamed in terror, Monster! Monster! They shouted as they scattered in panic. One fleeing soldier collided with a tall figure, who warned, Good dogs don't block the way, get lost. Recognizing the familiar flag, the soldier exclaimed, That flag belongs to the Blackhorn tribe. They're the strongest tribe. As the people of the Blackhorn tribe surrounded Li Wan, some soldiers remarked, We can definitely control him. Another added, Look at their eager expressions, they say the strong like to fight the strong. He's surely dead. Little did they know, whatever Li Wan had said to the leader of the Blackhorn tribe, Wu Chuk, made him turn around and punch the soldier down. After knocking him down, Wu Chuk shouted, Long live the leader. Long live the leader's consort. A follower echoed, Listen to the leader. Kill them all. The southern barbarian soldiers panicked, What's going on? Members of the Blackhorn tribe charged in, overwhelming the southern barbarian soldiers. Li Wan observed the scene and commented, Their energy is still so abundant. I hope I won't have to come back here later. Meanwhile, Cho Ru Li sat in her room, restless, thinking, Why hasn't that fool returned yet? There's not a single word. Just then, a maid entered and announced, Your Majesty, there's news from the front sent by Lord Chenhai. Cho Ru Li straightened up, accepted the message, and opened it to read. She gasped, What? How can this be? The maid wondered, Could something have happened at the front? The Empress seems very anxious. Cho Ru Li commanded, Issue a decree. I will personally go to the front. She thought, He really knows how to make others worry. When he returns, I will deduct all his pocket money. Meanwhile, Li Wan was causing chaos at the southern barbarians' army's encampment. In the distance, Zhao Chuan stood casually, chatting with Tu Yen. I remember someone called him Li Shiwan. Indeed, a name that lives up to its reputation. Luckily, these are just regular soldiers. Where are our elite troops? I remember the Blackhorn tribe, they can definitely hold him back. Tu Yen replied from behind, They're all surrendering to the enemy, now they're still fighting against our troops. Before they could wait long, Li Wan approached wielding a blade. He looked at them, his expression cold. So, you're all here. I've been looking for you. He swung his blade upward, and Tu Yen blocked it with his own. The two faced each other directly. Li Wan struck again, and Tu Yen stepped back, saying, Leader, your strength has improved greatly. Li Wan pressed, What is your true purpose in causing trouble for me everywhere? Aren't you afraid I'll cut you and Zhao Chuan down? Zhao Chuan chimed in from behind, Killing me is useless. The Zhao family has thousands of descendants, someone will take my place. Tu Yen added, Leader, instead of killing me, I advise you to leave here and head to Jang Nan to witness the tragedy unfolding in Jang Nan again. You might still make it there in time. If you delay, it won't be easy to get away. At that moment, several soldiers rushed over to protect their leader. Li Wan looked at Tu Yen and said, That's a clever scheme, using the common people as a bargaining chip. I'll remember this grudge. Meanwhile, Chenhai was running at full speed, thinking, We're almost at our troops. You vile traitor, you'll pay for this. Just as he was running, Li Wan jumped in front of him. Seeing this, Chenhai asked, You're back? Truly worthy of being the fastest man in Great Land, always quick to act. Li Wan instructed, Later, take the men directly to Jang Nan. Chenhai was puzzled, Why go to Jang Nan? What about these tens of thousands of enemy troops? Li Wan replied, Time is urgent, they plan to use an earthquake to attack Jang Nan. Chenhai was taken aback, Jang Nan is so densely populated, are they crazy? Li Wan glanced at Chen Hai's treasured sword and said, also, let me borrow your sword for a bit. Chen Hai held the sword tightly. What do you want to do? This is my prized sword, I spent a lot of money on it, equivalent to a year's salary. But Li Wan quickly snatched the sword and took off, saying, time is of the essence, I need to try to hold them off. The follow-up work is all on you. Chen Hai felt a bit lost, tears streaming down his face, but that's my new sword. At this moment, in Jang Nan City, the ministers were bowing their heads in reverence, welcoming the emperor's arrival. Li Zuj, following closely behind, asked her sister Ru Li, aren't we supposed to be going to battle? Why are we here? Cho Ru Li replied, the situation at the borders is unstable, and there are rumors spreading everywhere. I will start addressing the fundamental issues to comfort the people. Moreover, after the fall of Xiangnan City, Jiang Nan is the only stronghold left, and the enemy will surely attack. With my presence here, I can boost the morale of both the military and the civilians. One of the ministers bowed and asked, Your Majesty, what is the purpose of bringing people along this time? Cho Ru Li stated, this time, I am personally leading the campaign against the traitors. I will temporarily take command of Jiangnan City. She thought to herself, that fool only knows how to act recklessly. I will ensure the logistics are solid before going to assist him. Cho Ru Li led the soldiers, holding a map to survey the terrain. She mused, the defenses of Jiangnan City are somewhat simplistic, the surrounding area is flat and too open, making it easy to attack and difficult to hold. We must reinforce our troops. As she examined the map, Yu Yongben and Wan Ji were positioned behind her for protection, when they noticed Li Zuj pressing her ear to the ground to listen. Yu Yongben exclaimed in alarm, this is bad. There's someone killing people, and they possess extraordinary martial arts. Li Zuj responded, if I encounter a master, I must kneel and plead for mercy. Wan Ji panicked and asked, where is the assassin? Why can't I sense any movement? Yu Yongben dropped to the ground, saying, hero, spare my life. I can do anything to ensure your comfort. At this moment, Li Zuj stood up and looked at Yu Yongben, saying, you're overthinking it. I'm listening to the sounds from beneath the earth, there's a strange rumbling coming from below. Cho Ru Li questioned, a rumble from the earth? Could it be? She recalled a conversation Li Wan had once shared with her. Li Zuj asked, Ru Li, did you discover something? Cho Ru Li replied, I hope I'm wrong, otherwise, Jiang Nan will be devastated. She ordered, send out my edict. Inform the local authorities to quickly evacuate the citizens to safe areas. Wan Ji affirmed, as you command. However, before they could act, the ground beneath Jiangnan City shook violently. Someone shouted, help! Why is there suddenly an earthquake? The citizens panicked and began to flee in all directions. Wan Ji said, Your Majesty, it's too dangerous inside the city, let me protect you and get you out of here. Cho Ru Li refused, my subjects haven't evacuated yet, how can I leave? She commanded, all soldiers, listen up. Prioritize assisting the civilians, help them quickly reach the open areas to take refuge. The soldiers responded in unison, we will obey. At that moment, a flash of light from a sword sliced through the sky. Cho Ru Li immediately recognized, he's here. Li Wan was running across the rooftops, remembering what Tu Yen had said to him, grinding his teeth as he thought, I absolutely cannot let them do as they please. Seeing the ground shaking in the center of the city, he declared, the epicenter of the earthquake is right here. Whatever is beneath must not cause any harm to Ru Li. Li Wan thrust his sword straight into the ground where the tremors were strongest, startling the citizens and Cho Ru Li's group. Some terrified citizens exclaimed, stop. It stopped. Are we saved? As the ground broke open, a massive machine resembling a monster emerged. Seeing Li Wan standing atop the machine, a few citizens murmured, who is this divine figure? Is he a celestial being descended to earth? At that moment, a voice announced, the emperor has arrived. The citizens bowed their heads, and the soldiers guarding Cho Ru Li entered the scene. Two citizens whispered to each other, the emperor? Why is the emperor here? Li Wan looked at Cho Ru Li and asked, why did you come to the front lines? It's dangerous here, I'm glad I got here in time. Cho Ru Li reproached him, isn't it because of you? Why did you charge into the enemy camp alone? Besides, this is my land, I want to protect my people. Li Wan jumped down from the machine and said, leave the next steps to me. Cho Ru Li refused, saying. She took Li Wan's hand, looking out at the citizens, and declared, the remnants of the previous dynasty and the rebellious southern barbarians have destroyed the great land's legacy and slaughtered its people, now seeking to ravage Jiang Nan. We have already suffered too much, we cannot allow these traitorous fiends to act recklessly any longer. She announced, as emperor, I shall personally lead my forces alongside my husband to eradicate these rebels and protect the common folk. Everyone shouted in unison, "Long live your majesty! Long live the great land! Long live the eternal dynasty!" Cho-Ru Li looked at Li Wan and said, "This time, we will go together." Later, in the study of Jang Nan, Cho-Ru Li handled state affairs. She proposed policies, stamped the documents, and handed them to the waiting officials, instructing them to arrange the city's defenses and prepare for the enemy. The enemy was likely to try to infiltrate during a moment of carelessness, so she also ordered the calming of the populace. She commanded the opening of granaries to ensure sufficient supplies for the people. Once the officials departed, she sat back in her chair, stretched, and sighed in relief. Finally, "It's all arranged." Li Wan approached with a tray of tea and said, "You've worked hard, my lady." As she watched him pour the tea, she replied, "It's nothing difficult, it's my duty. But when will we be free from the shadow of war? We can only rely on the people." Receiving the teacup from Li Wan, Cho-Ru Li smiled and said, "But what makes me happiest is that, despite everything, the people can still unite and stand together. They truly are the pride of the great land." Li Wan asked, "Is there any important task you can assign to me?" Cho-Ru Li rested her chin on her hand and smiled lightly. "Taking care of me isn't the most important task." Li Wan replied, "Of course, it isn't." Cho-Ru Li pouted, "How can taking care of me be a burden to you?" Li Wan placed his hand on her shoulder and gently said, "Caring for my wife can't be considered a task. It's my duty." As he massaged her shoulders, she smiled and said, "That's acceptable. I was going to deduct a year's worth of your allowance, but now I'll only deduct half a year." She changed the subject, back to the earlier question, "How did you know Jang Nan was under attack?" Li Wan explained, "I initially planned to charge into the enemy camp alone and almost dealt with all of them. But Tu Yen deliberately leaked information to lead me here. However, now that I think about it, I find it a bit puzzling." Cho-Ru Li asked, "What don't you understand?" Li Wan pondered, "He could have misled me with false information, directing me away, but he didn't. It makes me feel like he revealed the truth, hoping I would come to Jang Nan, which is why I spared him." Cho-Ru Li reflected, "He wanted you to come to Jang Nan. What could be his reason for that? Without you, great land might have already fallen. Isn't that their goal?" Li Wan replied, "I don't know either. Perhaps he isn't the type to be truly malicious, or maybe I'm overthinking it." At that moment, Chen Hai entered and announced, "Your Majesty, the front line just reported that the enemy has retreated to the vicinity of the southern barbarians' lying valley." Li Wan nodded, "That's a wise choice. Their only advantage has been destroyed by me, so they have no option but to retreat and defend." Cho-Ru Li said, "Southern barbarians' lying valley, I remember that's where they transformed martial artists into mineral essence." Li Wan added, "That's right, it's their last stronghold." Cho-Ru Li commanded, "Convey my orders, the entire army must gather and prepare for a full-scale offensive." Chen Hai bowed in compliance. She turned to Li Wan and asked, "Do you wish to accompany me?" Li Wan questioned, "Aren't you the empress?" Cho-Ru Li smiled, "You will always be my favored one, so of course, I must give you this title." Li Wan playfully asked, "Then what title do I hold? Is there a name for me?" Cho-Ru Li thought for a moment, "Let me consider, if not, I will bestow upon you the title of Wu Fai." Li Wan smiled and thanked her, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Cho-Ru Li ordered the soldiers to present a box before Li Wan and said, "This time, I have a gift for you. This is the ancestral sword of the Great Land Royal Family, ranked second among the 12 divine weapons of the 10 continents, named Human Sword." Li Wan picked up the sword to examine it, admiring, "Human Sword, what a beautiful name. Your ancestors truly had a talent for naming." Cho-Ru Li explained, "This sword is quite special, it can only be wielded when absorbing the Great Land Dragon Chi." Li Wan asked, "Absorb Great Land Dragon Chi? But I'm not the Emperor, how would I have Dragon Chi?" Cho-Ru Li blushed and said, "It's alright, I'm sure you will have Dragon Chi. I've read some texts and discovered a method that allows close ones to absorb Dragon Chi from the Emperor." Li Wan inquired eagerly, "What method is that? Teach me quickly." Cho-Ru Li replied, "You don't need to know the details. In short, you will definitely have Dragon Chi." On the other side, Zhao Chuan shouted, "Damn it. Our trump card has been completely destroyed by him. It's all because of those treacherous bastards. I want to tear that couple apart and feed them to the dogs. No, I mean feed them to the pigs." He turned to Tu Yen and asked, "Is this weapon ready for use?" "It's probably the only thing that can suppress that traitor." Tu Yen calmly reminded him, "Your Majesty, it's currently absorbing essence, so it can't be used for the time being." Hearing this, Zhao Chuan angrily retorted, "Can't be used? The enemy's army is about to strike. How long did it take to transform the martial artist's essence into minerals? Was it all for nothing?" Tu Yen remained composed, "Your Majesty, there's no need to panic. I had a plan in place from the start. Everything is within my calculations? Zhao Chuan looked at Tu Yen deeply and asked, are you being serious? What's the plan? Tu Yen produced a black pill. This pill is a secret recipe I've concocted. It can stimulate the latent essence within the body, helping the user attain supernatural strength in a short time. Tu Yen replied, the quantity is limited. I suggest only the elite members of the Tu and Zhao families use them. However, the morale of our troops is waning. When the time comes for battle, your majesty must lead by example and guide our forces to victory. Zhao Chuan looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. It seems heaven doesn't want me to perish. Finally, the time has come for my counterattack. Tu Yen said mysteriously, that's right, it's time. That night, Li Wan lit a lamp and sat in his room, gazing at the sword before him, pondering, I've studied all day, but I still don't know how to use this sword. Zhou Ruli approached and asked, what's the matter? Li Wan sighed, I've tried repeatedly, but I can only make it move a little. Zhou Ruli smiled and said, perhaps the dragon qi is still insufficient. Aren't you curious about how to attain dragon qi? Li Wan looked confused. Just then, as he lay on the bed, he watched Zhou Ruli slowly undressing. She said, don't laugh. To achieve dragon qi, you have to do that. Zhou Ruli explained, a long time ago, there were martial artists who wanted to ascend to immortality and researched a method to transfer the body's fundamental energy to another person. This method is called dual cultivation and energy transfer. Li Wan picked up his Rui stick and declared, monsters, daring to capture my master. Today, I'll destroy your lair. He commanded, grow, grow, grow. Take this strike from me. He pressed on until he entered the mysterious cave. A torrent of water gushed out, and Li Wan shouted, damn it. You dare to use water techniques to soak me completely. Once the water recedes, I'll say, is that all you've got? Are you not coming out yet? He pulled a tuft of hair and shouted, transform. A swarm of tiny Li Wans appeared, and they set about capturing the monsters. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared, revealing the enchanting Zhou Ruli, with 2 horns on her head, floating in the air. She raised her hand to her mouth and blew a heart-shaped kiss towards Li Wan. As he caught it, a brilliant light shot straight up into the sky, creating a loud sound. The people in the city were bewildered and asked, what was that sound? Some speculated it might be an earthquake. It must be those rascals. They armed themselves with axes and weapons, declaring, let's fight back against them. The southern barbarians deserve to die 1,000 deaths. The turmoil in Jang Nan city persisted for hours, and everyone's resentment towards the southern barbarians and the remnants of the previous dynasty grew even stronger. In a mysterious cave, Zhao Chuan looked at those standing below and said, you are all my elite and trusted aides. Now, with that dog of an emperor and the army approaching, I can only sink the ship to protect the Zhao family legacy. He took out a black pill and announced, this is the pill that Tu Yen and I developed, called Immortal Bean. It can temporarily unleash your potential, boosting your essence and strength to at least the level of Great Land. Chen Hai and the others examined the pill. Zhao Chuan held one up and declared, today, I will lead the way. Take it, and together we will eliminate our enemies. He swallowed the pill, and indeed his essence surged. He shouted, heaven bless the Zhao family, for eternity. The others followed suit, consuming the pills, and their essence increased dramatically. They all raised their hands in cheers, heaven bless the Zhao family, for eternity. However, after taking the pill, their faces suddenly swelled with strange lumps, and their heads exploded, causing a gruesome scene with blood splattering everywhere. Zhao Chuan panicked and asked, what's happening? Almost immediately, he coughed up blood and fell to the ground. He looked at Tu Yen and exclaimed, Tu Yen, it was you. I trusted you, and you dared to betray me. Tu Yen replied calmly, I didn't deceive you. Your essence did indeed increase, but your body simply couldn't handle it. Zhao Chuan collapsed to the ground, staring at Tu Yen's back, breathing heavily. Tu Yen, you won't die a peaceful death. Tu Yen paid no mind and stepped to the center of the cave, looking at a massive machine. He said, the time has come, it's time to activate you. The leader will surely be amazed. In another scene, Zhou Ruli, fully armored, asked, how is it? Does it fit well? Li Wan praised, my dear, you look good in anything. You instantly appear to be a formidable general. Zhou Ruli frowned, what do you mean? Do I look fierce? Li Wan laughed, not at all. This is called heroic spirit. The enemy will be so mesmerized by you that they'll surrender on the spot. Zhou Ruli smiled, you have a silver tongue. If everything goes smoothly, that would be great. As they were talking, a loud explosion rang out. Zhou Ruli asked, what's going on? Is the enemy attacking? Li Wan reassured her, there's no need to panic. With me in Jang Nan, you don't need to run around. Let me go see what happened. Li Wan jumped away and soon spotted something vague in the smoke. He exclaimed in shock, no way. The remnants of the previous dynasty could produce something like this? Could it be a mecca? A massive mecca appeared, towering over everything. Chen Hai, wielding his sword defensively, couldn't help but exclaim, "What, exactly is that? Even all the elite martial artists in the city charging together wouldn't stand a chance against it?" At that moment, Li Wan arrived and stood in front of them all, instructing, "You all take the wounded and retreat. Make sure the civilians withdraw quickly. Let me handle this." Chen Hai reminded him, "Be careful. This thing is not to be underestimated." The giant monster loomed before Li Wan, saying, "Leader, you finally arrived." Li Wan stared at the colossal mecha and said, "Stand down, a Tuesday, don't make any more mistakes." Tu Yen, controlling the mecha, replied coldly, "Sorry, even if I'm wrong, I will see it through to the end." Li Wan crossed his arms and asked, "What exactly is your goal?" "It's not too late to stand down now, don't make any more mistakes." Tu Yen in the mecha responded, "Leader, you're still as naive as ever." With that, the mecha swung a fist towards Li Wan. He quickly dodged, the powerful punch smashing into the ground and sending rocks flying. Seizing the opportunity, Li Wan charged forward and delivered a fierce punch to the mecha's face. Flames erupted around the impact, but the mecha remained unaffected. The mecha spoke, "Leader, you've always wanted to protect everything, but look at what you're guarding. What exactly are you protecting?" Li Wan questioned sternly, "This mecha, where did you get its energy from? What exactly have you done?" The mecha stood tall and replied, "Straw Hat Camp, Immortal Turtle Island, Woodleaf Sect, Soul Reaver Gang, in total, we have wiped out 2,846 factions. Their vital energy has all been transformed into the power source for this mecha." From within the mecha, Tu Yan's voice echoed, "One is from the martial world, one is from the underworld." The mecha unleashed a powerful surge of energy, striking toward Li Wan with a thunderous boom. The explosion reverberated intensely, shattering the ground and rocks around Li Wan. Yet, he stood firm amidst the rubble, protecting himself. The mecha remarked, "This is absurd. That body of yours can withstand a mech infused with the energy of over 20,000 martial artists. Even after exhausting all my power, I still can't cause you any harm, leader." Tu Yen inside the mecha said, "But I also know, there's no way to destroy this weapon. The more brutally we fight, the faster this city will be destroyed." Li Wan held back his anger, thinking, "Damn it. He's right. Even if the mecha runs out of energy in the end, this city will still be destroyed. I need more power." Li Wan extended his hands and summoned his sword. The sword responded to his call, appearing in his grasp. The mecha across from him sneered, "What use is a broken sword?" Li Wan shouted, "Unseal." The sword shattered, and a blinding light emerged. Li Wan transformed, becoming a giant golden figure, towering 10 times taller than the tiny mecha. He stood higher than the city itself, and from afar, Cho Ru Li witnessed this sight. She recalled the royal chronicles that described the Great Land's founding emperor as a giant of light who established the empire. She never imagined the legend was true. At that moment, Li Wan spoke, "The dragon's energy of Great Land has gathered within me. I never expected the royal sword's legacy to hide such immense power." Li Wan turned toward Tu Yen inside the mecha and said, "Tu Yen, your crimes are countless. Today, don't blame me for forgetting our past ties." The colossal Li Wan raised his fist. "This punch is for the countless innocent lives you've taken." His fist came crashing down on the small mecha. "Pay the price for your actions." And, on a train, 3 people with 3 different hair colors, green, blue, and red, sat facing each other. The one with green hair spoke, "Everyone, we're almost at the capital. There's something I've been meaning to say, though I'm not sure if I should. Surely, you all don't actually call that rebel your brother-in-law, do you?" The person with blue hair, the 5th Prince Cho Ru Shao, responded, "The sands and winds of the northern desert couldn't defeat me, how could some mere rebel make me submit?" The one with red hair, the 6th Prince Cho Ru Shuai, chimed in, "Don't tell me you've all prepared gifts. Are you trying to win his favor?" The green-haired woman, the 4th Princess Cho Ru Hua, scoffed, "Who do you think we are? A traitor like him, I'd love nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood." Hearing this, Cho Ru Shuai was satisfied. "Good. This time, I've brought various deadly poisons from the northern desert. I'll definitely use them to finish off that traitor." Cho Ru Shao added, "Exactly. I've brought firepower capable of burning him to ashes." Cho Ru Hua continued, "What a coincidence, I brought something that can freeze him to death." Cho Ru Hua then laid out their plan. "So, we're all agreed, under no circumstances will we submit to that traitor. When we meet him, provoke him first, then find the right moment to eliminate him." All 3 swore that should any of them break their oath, they would be cursed by heaven and earth. In the royal palace, Li Wan asked Cho Ru Li, "If your relationship with them isn't too bad, why did you send them to the northern desert?" Isn't that a bit heartless? Cho Ru-li replied, consider it training for them. Do you think it's heartless? Later, we still need to be warm towards them, so they don't think I'm someone without feelings. Li Wan thought to himself, no need to fake affection later. If I do, it might undermine the credibility she's worked so hard to build. At that moment, Chen Hai bowed and reported, Your Majesty, the princes and princesses have arrived outside. Cho Ru-li ordered them to be brought in for an audience. The three, with green, blue, and red hair, entered. Cho Ru-hua glanced at Li Wan, standing beside Cho Ru-li, and thought, the man next to the Empress must be Li Wan. The three exchanged looks and then knelt in unison, greeting, Your Majesty, Imperial brother-in-law. Cho Ru-shuai and Cho Ru-shao glanced toward Cho Ru-hua, their eyes questioning, didn't we agree to kill the rebel? Why are you acting like this? Cho Ru-hua thought to herself, damn it, I had planned to report this directly to gain praise and stay in the capital. Sitting high above, Cho Ru-li said, My dear younger brothers and sister, no need for such formalities. There are no outsiders here, so please rise. Cho Ru-hua trembled, thinking, be kind, stay calm, but then another thought hit her, wait. When has the Empress ever spoken to us so politely? Cho Ru-shao pondered, there must be something more to her words. Could she be testing us? Cho Ru-shuai, remaining silent, thought, she's already planning to kill us. She'll use our moment of carelessness to accuse us of disrespect and then have us executed. The three bowed even lower, convinced that raising their heads to look at her would mean certain death. From her seat above, Cho Ru-li observed them bowing so deeply and thought, I went through all this trouble to be polite, and yet you refuse to respond. Cho Ru-hua then spoke up, Your Majesty, upon seeing our Imperial brother-in-law, we are filled with immense admiration. We humbly ask Your Majesty to allow the Imperial brother-in-law to say a word, so that we may express our respect properly. Cho Ru-shao quickly followed up, Indeed, I respect our brother-in-law more than the sky above, and the heavens can bear witness to that. Cho Ru-shuai added, The Imperial brother-in-law's fame spreads across the seas, and his radiant glory makes us humble mortals unable to look directly at him. Li Wan looked at them and said, The three of you are certainly no ordinary people, truly worthy of being from the Cho family. He thought to himself, these three, along with the Southern Warden King, make me wonder if the royal family's intelligence isn't all that high. Cho Ru-li, visibly irritated, shouted, Shut up, all of you. You don't need to flatter him by watching his reactions when you speak. Talking like that only gives him more authority to interject. Do you think I want to lose face in front of him, only for him to use this to mock me later? Cho Ru-hua, worried, thought to herself, the Empress is angry. She wants to make it clear that she alone is the ruler of Great Land and doesn't want Li Wan to interfere. It seems the two of them aren't as close as I imagined. Chen Hai, a palace attendant, then asked, Your Highnesses, now that you've returned to the capital, may I ask if you've brought any gifts for Her Majesty and her betrothed? All three answered in unison, Of course we've brought gifts. But inwardly, each of them thought, We just talked about killing the traitor, and now we have to offer him gifts as flattery. Cho Ru-shuai presented her gift, saying, This is ice crystal from the northern desert. It does not melt, even in the summer heat. Cho Ru-hua followed up, This is fire stone from the northern desert, which can keep you warm during the winter. Finally, Cho Ru-shao said, This is snake herb from the northern desert, known for boosting vitality and enhancing masculine strength. Li Wan felt a bit perplexed and thought to himself, It seems the northern desert is truly poor, so poor that these people have nothing better to offer than these common items to try and curry favor. On top of that, they clearly don't want to stay in the desert any longer and hope I'll help them out. He then said to Cho Ru-li, Let it go. Look at what you've done to your own brothers and sister, they're practically miserable. Cho Ru-li snorted coldly, I don't need you to meddle in this. Seeing this, the three siblings thought to themselves, as expected, their relationship is quite bad. If they're not careful, they might end up fighting each other. At that moment, Cho Ru-li asked, Where is General Cho, who came with you? Cho Ru-hua replied, The general didn't receive permission to enter the palace, so he's resting at an inn. Cho Ru-li responded, How could the guardian general of the nation be resting at an inn? I'll arrange a more suitable place for all of you to stay. Cho Ru-li continued, If there's nothing else, you may all leave for now. The three of them said in unison, Your Majesty, Imperial brother-in-law, we take our leave. Inwardly, they all thought, We've safely passed the test. Li Wan then said, Actually, I've thought of a very comfortable place where they could stay. Would you like me to arrange it for them? Cho Ru-li replied, Since it's so comfortable, go ahead and make the arrangements. Li Wan led them to a mansion and said, This is the place. You'll stay here for the time being? Cho Ru-hua remarked, Such a luxurious estate. The Empress is very thoughtful. Cho Ru-shao asked, Imperial brother-in-law, what was this mansion used for before? Li Wan answered, it belonged to the nearest wealthy person, who recently had it confiscated. No, I mean, generously donated it to the court. Zhou Rushuai directly asked, may I inquire, Imperial brother-in-law, who was the previous owner? Li Wan, unfazed, replied, someone you all know, it's the Southern Warden King's residence. You can stay here, consider it a gift from me. After all, he's still imprisoned at the moment. The three of them trembled in fear, recalling Zhou Ruli's terrifying expression. They thought to themselves, is this a threat to us? The Empress truly is the Empress. She must be intending to kill us this time. Li Wan looked at the Chu siblings and said, I'm going to meet with General Zhou for a moment. You all feel free to do as you like. Zhou Ruhua burst into tears, Imperial brother-in-law, even though you leave for just a short while, it feels as if I've lost the light of life. Zhou Rushuai also shed tears, we younger ones can only keep you in our thoughts. Zhou Rushao, hearing the two, joined in their crying. Li Wan thought to himself, I'm still alive, I haven't died yet. Watching Li Wan's figure disappear into the distance, Zhou Ruhua analyzed, we really are in danger. In the past, even during the struggle for the throne, the Empress never showed any intent to harm us. But now, she seems to want to. Zhou Rushuai continued, that's right, but I also see an opportunity for change. Do you all think about why the Empress has developed such intent to harm us? Zhou Ruhua speculated, maybe it's because I'm beautiful. Zhou Rushao added, or because I'm talented. Zhou Rushuai sighed, neither of those. Zhou Rushao pondered, could it be because we're too smart? At this, Zhou Rushuai nodded, exactly, that's part of the reason. The other two exclaimed, so it is. Zhou Rushuai continued to analyze, the Empress must have seen us training and growing stronger in the northern desert, threatening her dominance. That's why she's developed this intent to harm us. But there's an even more important reason. The two asked, what reason? Zhou Rushuai replied, the truth is this, she's venting her anger, shifting her marital conflicts onto us. Zhou Ruhua chimed in, that's right, their marital relationship has indeed deteriorated to the extreme. Zhou Rushuai said, fortunately, we've realized this. For now, there's another matter, what do you think of Li Wan? Zhou Ruhua sighed, Li Wan is very handsome. Zhou Rushao added, his temperament is also passable. Zhou Rushuai continued, compared to the Empress, he's definitely much easier to get along with. So we need to work from his side, trying to help them mend their relationship. If we can make the Empress happy, not only will she not kill us, but she might also let us stay in the capital. Hearing this, Zhou Ruhua agreed, that's a good plan. Furthermore, even if we fail, as long as we make the Imperial brother-in-law happy, he will surely protect us and ensure we don't die. Zhou Rushao reminded them, there's one more very important thing, we can't appear too clever. Zhou Rushuai nodded, right, it's best if we pretend to be a bit simple-minded in front of them. That night, in a brightly lit room, Elder Hua sat across from a tall, muscular man and asked, General Zhou, what brings you here this time? General Zhou replied tersely, just completing the task entrusted by the young lady. No need to ask too much. Elder Hua sighed, I just hope you can prioritize the bigger picture and avoid any further disputes. General Zhou, growing impatient, replied, such long-windedness. I know what I'm doing. If there's nothing else, you should leave quickly. Mr. Hua stood up and clasped his hands, then I shall take my leave. In his heart, he thought, these times are truly chaotic. As he opened the door to leave, he heard a voice calling, Elder Hua is here too. Mr. Hua turned around and recognized the voice as belonging to the esteemed leader. He cheerfully inquired, esteemed leader, it's been a while since we last met. You still carry yourself with such grandeur. I wish I could recite a poem to commemorate the occasion. Li Wan politely declined. No, I have matters to attend to. He then asked, is General Zhou here? Mr. Hua replied, General Zhou is resting here. We are old acquaintances, so I came to pay him a visit. Upon hearing this, Li Wan said, then you no longer need to stay. Mr. Hua felt a bit regretful but still said, it's been a while since I last saw the leader. Though I'm reluctant, I must take my leave. Li Wan called him back, wait a moment. I wanted to ask, you must know the new princes and princesses who just arrived, right? Mr. Hua smiled and said, of course I know them. I was their elementary tutor. Hearing this, Li Wan thought, no wonder they seemed so dull. In the room, General Zhou turned off the lights and changed his clothes, preparing to sleep. He said, let's go to bed, tomorrow I still have to meet that traitor. Just as he finished speaking, Li Wan casually pushed the door open and interrupted, General Zhou, I'm here on the orders of the Empress. Seeing the imposing figure of General Zhou, Li Wan remarked, a big gorilla. General Zhou gritted his teeth, thinking, a big gorilla? He dares insult me, I can't let this slide. I have to teach him a lesson today. He raised his fist to punch Li Wan, but Li Wan dodged to the side, causing General Cho to stumble and fall. Li Wan looked at the Chu general lying flat on the ground and said, "This is not good, I said I wanted to resolve this peacefully." He thought, could this be the pet of the Chu general? But it seems he's not here. He then picked up the big monkey Chu general and took the opportunity to bring this pet to the Imperial Beast Garden. It could serve as a reconciliation and is also proper etiquette, he thought. In the Imperial Beast Garden, the Chu general was locked in a cage and treated like a big monkey, having been knocked out. Even a little dog came to pee on him. Li Wan returned to the study and saw that the lamp was still on. He asked the person sitting behind the desk, "Are you still working? Your siblings have already been arranged." Cho Ru-li asked, "Where's the Chu general? Have you met him?" Li Wan smiled and explained, "I went to the inn to meet him, but I couldn't find him, I only saw the pet he keeps. I even remarked that the people of the northern desert are quite advanced, even taming big monkeys as pets and dressing them up." Hearing this, Cho Ru-li felt something was off and asked, "A big monkey dressed in clothes? What happened next?" Li Wan continued, "The creature is still just a creature, it attacked me directly, so I knocked it out. But I was worried that the Chu general might see that as a provocation, so I placed it in the Imperial Beast Garden first." He casually added, "Regardless of that, I have a project worth hundreds of millions that I want to discuss with you." He glanced at what Cho Ru-li was drawing and asked, "Wait, who are you drawing?" Cho Ru-li held up the drawing of the Chu general and asked, "Is this what the big monkey looks like?" Li Wan was surprised. "That's it. Have you seen it before?" Cho Ru-li shattered Li Wan's illusion. "The great ape you're talking about is General Cho." Li Wan was taken aback, trying to save face. "I feel like my relationship with him can still be salvaged. But deep down, he thought, if not, maybe I should just eliminate him." The next morning, Li Wan woke up in bed, yawning as he glanced at the empty space beside him. He muttered to himself, "Cho Ru-li is truly a villain, playing with people and then running away." However, when he saw the breakfast prepared on the table, he praised, "But she is still very thoughtful, preparing breakfast for me." As Li Wan walked down the main road, he thought, "I didn't want to bother my wife any further, but now I can only go wherever I can." Suddenly, he heard a rustling in the bushes and cautiously called out, "Who's there?" The three siblings of the Cho family appeared, lined up like a trio of superheroes in various styles. Cho Ruxiao excitedly said, "The heavens must be moved by us. We just woke up and already encountered the prince consort." Cho Rushuai chimed in, "What a coincidence." Li Wan responded with suspicion, "Coincidence? What are you doing hiding in the bushes?" Cho Ruhua looked at him and suggested, "Prince consort, do you want to go to the palace? Let us lead the way." Li Wan agreed, "All right, then. Sorry to trouble you." He thought to himself, "Up so early and already buttering me up, do they really not want to return to the northern desert?" Cho Ruhua said to the other two, "The prince consort has agreed, quickly, prepare the royal procession." The other two nodded and said, "Don't worry, leave it to us." After that, Li Wan was hoisted up like a log by the two siblings to set off. Li Wan was carried in a somewhat undignified manner. Cho Ruhua looked pleased, but then the other two ended up getting a knock on the head from Li Wan. He said sternly, "Put me down. You might not feel embarrassed, but I do." As the three followed behind Li Wan, Cho Ruhua asked, "How did the prince consort and the empress rest last night?" Li Wan thought for a moment before replying, "To avenge the Li family, we had a fierce battle all night." Hearing this, the three siblings thought, so it's come to the point of fighting over revenge. It seems their relationship is even worse than we expected. At that moment, Cho Ruxiao asked, "Prince consort, it seems General Cho went missing yesterday. Did you see him?" Li Wan replied immediately, "I didn't see him. The capital is so lively, he might have gone out to have some fun." Cho Rushuai whispered to Cho Ruxiao, "He probably went to a pleasure house. The prince consort is covering for him." Cho Ruxiao frowned, "I didn't think General Cho, who usually looks so proper, would have such thoughts." Meanwhile, in the palace, General Cho stood below the platform, looking at Cho Ru-li and said, "Your Majesty, I acted according to your command. I will not pursue this matter further." Cho Ru-li praised, "Very good. General Cho has always protected the northern desert. Now that you are back in the capital, take some time to rest. If there is nothing else, you may leave." General Cho walked outside, muttering to himself, "Stay calm. To complete the task assigned by the young miss, I must not lose my temper." As the four of them, including Li Wan, arrived, Cho Ruxiao smiled and said, "General Cho came to see the emperor early this morning. What a quick pace." Li Wan stood quietly to the side. General Cho approached and raised his fist toward Li Wan's chest, saying, Just now, the Emperor told me not to compete with you, so consider yourself lucky. Li Wan provocatively replied, I truly apologize for that. General Cho shouted, I am General Cho. Cho Ruxiao chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. General Cho, really, taking a stroll in the pleasure quarters to cool off, how can you still be so hot-tempered? Cho Rushuai added, or maybe the service wasn't good. Next time, I'll introduce Ruhoa to you. General Cho exploded with rage. Who told you that I went to the pleasure quarters to cool off? Cho Ruxiao confessed, of course, it was the Emperor's husband who told us. General Cho was genuinely angry this time. That traitor, you've gone too far. I can't stand it anymore. If it weren't for you kidnapping my lady, none of this would have happened. Li Wan responded blankly, I kidnapped your lady. Cho Ruhua stood nearby, chuckling softly. Kidnapping the lady of General Cho? Cho Ruxiao asked curiously, which lady are you talking about? Cho Ruhua replied, the family that General Cho serves is the Ko family. That lady is the eldest daughter of the Ko family, and she is also the mother of the Emperor. Li Wan crossed his arms and scoffed, so you're a subordinate of my mother-in-law. He recalled, back then, you were all covered in armor, so I couldn't recognize you at all. General Cho was so furious he seemed to be on fire. Today, I will make you understand what respect means. The three siblings of the Chu family stepped forward to intervene. General Cho, calm down. General Cho shouted loudly, get out of my way, don't stop me. Cho Ruhua glanced to the side and said, if General Cho is determined, then we won't stop him any longer. Little did he know, General Cho was thinking to himself, someone stop me. I'm just saying this for fun, I can't handle a monster like that. General Cho then pretended to be magnanimous. Consider yourself lucky today. Thanks to a few princes and princesses intervening, I'll let you off this time. Li Wan looked at him in surprise, while Cho Ruhua encouraged, General Cho, there's no need to hold back with us. General Cho scoffed, turned, and walked away. You don't need to say any more, next time, he won't be so lucky. Cho Ruxiao called out from behind, General Cho, don't wait for next time, come right away. Cho Ruli added, it seems he's just ignoring us. Li Wan sighed internally, this is really a dead duck, still acting tough. The four of them approached the entrance to the Imperial study. Cho Ruhua asked, now that we're at the Imperial study, isn't your brother-in-law going to go in directly? Li Wan replied, this is the Imperial study of His Majesty, it's such a solemn place, how can we just barge in? He thought, Ruli doesn't even know I'm here with them. If she isn't prepared, it could affect her image. Cho Ruhua whispered, I didn't expect that even the brother-in-law would want to adhere to palace rules. Cho Ruxiao commented, it seems their relationship is quite distant. At that moment, Chen Hai announced, His Majesty requests your presence, you may enter. Cho Ruhua instructed, don't forget our plan, we mustn't appear too clever. The other two agreed, that's right, we need to work on mending their relationship. The four of them stepped into the study and saw Cho Ru-Li sitting behind the desk. Cho Ru-Li looked at them and thought, although they aren't the smartest, at least they're fairly normal. Moreover, they speak pleasantly, which gives me a bit of face. Otherwise, I might as well leave them in the capital. Before she could finish her thoughts, the three of them spoke up, we pay our respects to your majesty. You look so youthful today, radiating with brilliance. Cho Ru-Li sighed, no need for such formality. She thought, what's wrong with these people? Li Wan looked at them and wondered, just a moment ago they were normal, how did they suddenly turn into a bunch of fools? Cho Ru-Li then said, yesterday, we met as emperor and subjects. Today, we're still family, let's treat each other as such. Let's go to the Imperial garden and enjoy the scenery. She thought, they must not have returned in a long time, they're not used to the climate, so I'll let it slide. After all, they're not doing anything too outlandish. But the three siblings became even more anxious, thinking, it seems like she's more upset. And now they're reverting to old tricks, trying to lower our guard. The five of them strolled through the Imperial garden, and as they watched Li Wan and Cho Ru-Li walking ahead, Cho Ruxiao asked, what should we do now? It feels like we've been seen through. Cho Ruhua replied, no need to panic. At this point, we can only leverage our strengths to resolve this, which means flattering them. Cho Ruhua looked at the two and praised, brother-in-law and your majesty are truly a match made in heaven. Cho Ruxiao added, not just a match, they really are a perfect pair. Cho Rushuai chimed in, they're indeed a talented man and a beautiful woman, deserving of the heavens and the earth. Li Wan sighed to Cho Ru-Li, it feels like I'm walking with a pet dog. Cho Ru-Li replied unhappily, if they're the dogs, then what am I? Cho Ruhua looked at them and asked, what do you two usually do? She thought, this is bad, they don't know why we're arguing. I need to change the subject quickly. Li Wan answered, reading. Cho Ru-Li added, sitting. Li Wan thought. At home, Cho-Ru Li reads while I sit next to her enjoying the moment. No, I mean helping her with her health and promoting blood circulation. Cho-Ru Hua thought. This is a disaster, they just laze around. The plan is completely ineffective. So she continued, surely you must do something together? Li Wan cheerfully prepared to elaborate. Of course, for example, sometimes. But before he could finish, Cho-Ru Li scolded. Shut up. She thought, don't think I don't know what you're trying to say. Cho-Ru Hua was worried, thinking, the Empress is trying to stop the brother-in-law from speaking. Could it be that their conflict has become so serious that it's showing on the surface? Cho-Ru Shuai whispered, the brother-in-law has figured out we're pretending to be clueless because we're acting too poorly. Right now, we can only stick to the plan. The other two asked in unison, what are you planning to do? Cho-Ru Shuai gritted her teeth and replied, let loose. Meanwhile, Li Wan said to Cho-Ru Li, you've scared your younger siblings. Cho-Ru Li responded, yeah, that was aimed at you. They've been in the northern desert for too long. Before she could finish, Cho-Ru Shuai stripped off her clothes and shouted, quack. Both Li Wan and Cho-Ru Li asked, what do you want to do? Cho-Ru Shuai jumped into the pond right in front of them. As she swam, she shouted, I'm an ugly duckling, quack quack. Cho-Ru Xiao then grabbed her rear end and brought her fist in front of Cho-Ru Hua, saying, here's my fart. She turned around, let out a fart, then bounced around, laughing loudly. Ha ha. Come and catch me. Cho-Ru Hua, seeing this, thought, these foolish siblings, I could never do such embarrassing things. She fell to the ground, thinking, I'm doomed. The Empress definitely won't let me off the hook. Li Wan looked at the scene in front of him, wondering to himself, what's wrong with them? But isn't schizophrenia supposed to be hereditary? Seeing this, Cho-Ru Li decided, it's better to let them play in the northern desert for now. Back at the estate, the three Chu siblings were sitting together discussing. Cho-Ru Hua said, it's too difficult. Do they really have no feelings for each other, as if they have a vendetta? Cho-Ru Xiao chimed in, your father was indeed killed by him. Cho-Ru Shuai reminded, it was my father. Cho-Ru Hua analyzed, we only see them outwardly hating each other, is it possible that they're actually very affectionate on the inside? Hearing this, Cho-Ru Shuai replied, though the chances are low, we don't really know how they are with each other on a daily basis. At that moment, a maid entered and announced, 3 princes, the Empress requests your presence. The 3 of them thought, requesting our presence? Could it be to send us off? Cho-Ru Hua approached the maid and asked, sister, are you the Empress's maid? She thought, this is a good opportunity to find out about the relationship between the two of them. The maid smiled and said, I don't dare to take credit. I am indeed the Empress's maid. Hearing this, Cho-Ru Hua continued, young sister, there's no need for formalities. I just want to chat about some household matters. What do you think of the relationship between the Empress and Li Wan? What do they usually talk about? The maid pondered for a moment and replied, their relationship probably isn't very good. Each time, whether it's me or Lord Chenhai who appears, their expressions are very serious. It's always like that. Moreover, sometimes after I leave, I can still hear the Empress loudly scolding, saying, what are you reaching for here? The 3 Chu siblings were startled upon hearing this, thinking, we didn't expect their struggle for power to be so intense. We really underestimated the situation in the palace. The 3 siblings stood below, looking up at Li Wan and Cho-Ru Li. Cho-Ru Hua asked, Your Majesty, brother-in-law, what is the reason for summoning us to the palace this time? Cho-Ru Li smiled and said, it's nothing major. I just wanted to discuss some details about this banquet with you. Chenhai, standing below, added, here is the banquet schedule and menu. Cho-Ru Hua suggested, I have an idea. I think the food should be as varied as possible, and it would be best to include Heavenly Mountain Snow Lotus and Northern Sea Extreme Fish. She thought, even if I die, I want to be a well-fed ghost. The other Cho siblings immediately agreed, that's right, we definitely need more food. Li Wan responded, the more, the better. Let's add a few more dishes. Cho-Ru Li added, and let's increase the number of dessert plates. The 3 Chu siblings below said, Your Majesty, brother-in-law, if there's nothing else, we will take our leave. They all thought, it's frightening how even the choice of food can lead to disputes. Truly, top-tier figures in conflict are terrifying. It's better to slip away first and figure things out later. After the 3 left, Li Wan asked Cho-Ru Li, is there anything that needs arranging next? Cho-Ru Li replied, no, we haven't gone out for a walk together lately. Chenhai, standing below, snorted coldly, thinking, humph, the Empress still has to handle matters in Jang Nan and then deal with the southern barbarians. How could she have time to go out with you? Cho-Ru Li continued, there's nothing to do. Li Wan said, I thought you had quite a bit to do, I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Ru Li, not wanting to admit it, quickly added, don't misunderstand, I just haven't had a chance to observe the people lately. This time it will be a convenient work-related trip. Hearing this, Chen Hai thought, no wonder she's the empress, she can control Li Wan while conveniently observing the people's situation. It really is killing two birds with one stone. Li Wan and Ru Li were strolling through the bustling streets of the capital. Li Wan asked, have you lost a bit of weight again? I advise you not to overwork yourself. I know of an emperor who died from exhaustion. Ru Li replied, I don't think so. After all, I've been taking good care of myself lately. Li Wan agreed, your waist does seem slimmer than before, but other areas have filled out nicely. Hearing this, Ru Li said, yes, you've been quite observant. She continued, aside from your intense conflicts with my father and the Black Wind General, you seem to have the closest relationship with the Northern Desert tribes. Li Wan responded, I wouldn't say it's too close. Years ago, due to some special circumstances, I collaborated with them to some extent. They're a bit easier to communicate with than others. I actually find it quite interesting. Ru Li asked, is that so? Then she inquired further, what has made you so proactive today? Li Wan extended his hand and asked, what are you doing? Ru Li took his hand and said, it's just for work. If we show a better relationship, those below us won't think our relationship is poor. Li Wan laughed and said, then your work seems quite easy. Ru Li huffed, it's much more difficult than you imagine. Li Wan replied, then don't give up. Ru Li tightened her grip on his hand, saying, of course I won't, because this is my lifelong career. The three Chu siblings were watching when Ru Hua remarked, the empress looks a bit stiff, they are indeed pretending to get along. Suddenly, the Chu general appeared behind them and asked, what are you all doing here? They were startled, and Ru Hua said, you scared me to death. We're observing the empress and General Li, is there something wrong? The general looked at the two in the distance and said, they seem to be very affectionate with each other. The three siblings thought, you're being fooled by what you see. The four of them continued to hide and observe Ru Li and Li Wan, believing it to be a secret, but Li Wan said to Ru Li, your younger siblings are following closely behind. Ru Li didn't stop him. That suits me just fine, it can showcase that our relationship is extremely harmonious. She thought, could it be misunderstood as being too good? Ru Hua asked, what's going on? What did brother-in-law say just now that made the empress so red-faced? She turned to the general and said, if they end up fighting later, General, remember to protect the empress. The general looked confused and said, huh? Are you blind? Their relationship looks very good, how could anything happen? Ru Hua retorted, have you ever been in love? Based on my many years of experience in romance, they are absolutely just acting. General Cho replied, no. Why would I want to fall in love? Men from the northern desert are solitary. Ru Hua added, there's no need to deceive yourself. I think you'll spend your whole life with nothing but sand in the northern desert. Ru Shuai also chimed in, General Cho, isn't it true that women don't really like you? General Cho said, kid, ever since I was young, women have liked me. I was even called the Great Landman. It's just that I'm not interested in romance, understood? Based on my own experience, they absolutely do like each other for real. Ru Hua thought to himself, are you sure that woman is even human? As for that handsome man, he looks more like a gorilla. Ru Shao said, with how your brother-in-law treats you, and yet you still speak up for him, could it be that the two of you have some kind of secret affair? General Cho responded, not an affair, but indeed there's a deeper connection. The three others immediately said, traitor. You lack martial virtue? General Cho replied, we are all family now. In the past, there was some interaction. Ru Hua asked, didn't you say before that your brother-in-law kidnapped the Empress Dowager? Why are you still defending him? The general answered, there's no need for you to know. This is a private matter between us and him. I'm only here to confirm one thing. The general thought, though kidnapping the lady caused a lot of trouble, if he hadn't helped us back then, we might have been wiped out by the late emperor. My lady, it seems your daughter is far luckier than you, marrying a man who isn't half bad. General Cho smiled to himself, thinking, indeed, as you said, Li Wan truly is a good man. Seeing General Cho smile, Ru Shuai said, look at that, the big gorilla is smiling. The other two siblings chimed in, haha, isn't that right? Angered, General Cho shouted, you. He grabbed Ru Shuai, lifting him up, you're looking for death. Ru Shuai, knowing when to back down, quickly said, wait. I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken the truth. He then yelled, the big gorilla wants to kill someone. Help. On the other side, Ru Li heard the commotion and asked, what's going on back there? Li Wan casually replied, nothing really, probably just someone provoking a dog and getting bitten. Hearing this, Cho Ru-li lost interest and continued, our earlier reconciliation was pretty clear, right? Li Wan playfully suggested, honestly, it still felt a bit lacking. A kiss would have made it even better. Cho Ru-li crossed her arms and retorted, that's just your opinion. Don't get ahead of yourself after getting off easy. Then Cho Ru-li asked, it seems like you met my mother before, didn't you? Li Wan, hearing this, answered, oh, that? The eldest lady of the Ko family, who is now my mother-in-law, was indeed captured by me on the battlefield back then. Cho Ru-li looked at him and said, what's there to fear? Capturing her just shows your skill. I'm just curious about what actually happened at the time. I heard that my mother nearly fought against the late emperor's army to protect her subordinates. If it weren't for the rebel forces intervening, the battle would have turned into a massacre. So tell me, had you all planned this out in advance? Li Wan didn't deny it and said, you could say that. But at the time, the rebel forces also gained quite a bit, damaging the enemy's reputation while ensuring we secured certain advantages. Cho Ru-li praised him, not bad tactics. It's getting late, and I still have some work to take care of. Let's wrap it up here for today. Li Wan replied, goodbye, see you tonight. As Cho Ru-li turned to leave, she mumbled, yeah, who even wants to see you tonight? After Cho Ru-li had left, Li Wan turned and asked, the wind's pretty strange today, blowing you all the way here. So, what's the deal? You've been following us for quite some time now, haven't you? What do you want? General Cho spoke up, I've spent a long time thinking about how to face you. I feel both gratitude and resentment toward you. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have ended up wandering in the northern desert. Li Wan looked at him and asked, I heard that there's nothing there, just endless sand? General Cho replied, that's right, it's very boring. Li Wan, cutting to the chase, asked, so, what's your real purpose? General Cho said, before coming here, we discussed how we should approach you. In the end, we couldn't decide, so we drew lots to choose a representative. That ended up being me, and now I'm here to figure out what to do. Li Wan laughed, you guys are really carefree, not worried about causing trouble at all. He then asked, so, what's your attitude toward this? General Cho responded, the young lady made a bet with you. Although I don't know what it was about, she said that if she lost, we would follow you and make you the ruler of 10,000 troops. Li Wan replied, although I wanted that before, now I don't anymore. Hearing this, General Cho said, the young lady truly didn't misjudge you, but the task she entrusted us with before her passing is one we must complete. She predicted you would capture the capital, but now, you've used a method far more effective than storming the city. Li Wan smiled brightly and explained, we are truly in love. Don't misunderstand the situation. General Cho responded, rest assured, our previous concern was that you might use this opportunity to seize power. But after observing, it's clear you and Her Majesty are genuinely in love. He then knelt on the ground and declared, from this moment onward, the strongest army of Shinchou, for the next 50 years, will be under your command. Even if you order us to face the wolf riders of the northern desert, we will not falter. Li Wan smiled brightly and said, you're quite stubborn. All right then, I'll give you all one order, no matter the situation, you must always protect Cho Ru-li. After that, Li Wan entered the house and saw Li Zuj. He asked, Li Zuj, are you off today? Li Zuj, while eating a pastry, replied, oh, landlord sir, you've just returned? I got off work early today. Li Wan, surprised, said, really? Or did you get fired again? Did your boss finally catch you sneaking food at the shop? Li Zuj retorted, how could that be? I've perfected my sneaking skills to the point they're flawless. Today, I took in a new underling, and she did all the work. Li Wan asked, who's the poor soul that was blind enough to make you their leader? Li Zuj pouted, landlord sir, you're just jealous. My boss hired a new worker today, and she asked me to be her big sister and protect her. She's a hard worker, so I let her do everything. Li Wan analyzed, it seems like you haven't realized a very serious issue. Your boss hired someone new. Could it be they're planning to replace you? Your meal ticket might be slipping away. At this, Li Zuj froze, realizing the truth, and then bolted out the door, shouting, I've been so naive. I don't want to get fired. Watching her leave, Li Wan sighed in relief, finally got rid of the third wheel. Now there's no one to disturb the two of us. As night fell, Li Wan was massaging Cho Ru-li's shoulders. At one point, Cho Ru-li remarked, just stick to the shoulder massage. Don't think I don't know what kind of tricks you're trying to pull. Li Wan chuckled, yes, ma'am. That was just an accidental slip of the hand. At this point, Cho Ru-li asked, you had a talk with General Cho, didn't you? Li Wan replied with a question, why? Did he say something to you? Cho Ru-li responded, he did mention a few things, clarifying the connection between the Ko family and me. I suppose now, my status has gone from a false title to a real one. She then asked more seriously, what exactly did you talk about with him? Why has the northern desert suddenly changed its stance like that? Li Wan, pretending to be cool, replied, obviously, it's because my looks are just too irresistible. Annoyed, Cho Ru Li scolded, be serious for once. Li Wan laughed and countered, you don't believe me? Or are you saying my lovely wife doesn't find me handsome? Cho Ru Li, with a playful assessment, said, you're passable. Li Wan feigned heartbreak, so, in your eyes, I'm just passable. Cho Ru Li, slightly blushing, responded, that's not it. The way you look is exactly what I like, and that's enough. Li Wan then turned around, laughing heartily, I knew it. Got you this time, didn't I? Cho Ru Li huffed, of course I saw through it. Li Wan countered, so why did you let me trick you? Cho Ru Li, sitting in her chair with her arms crossed, replied, I just thought, what if you really got upset by what I said? So even if you tricked me, I wanted to make you smile a little? Li Wan placed his hand on her shoulder and said, looks like I was wrong, I need to make it up to you. Lady Li, let's head to the bedroom. Cho Ru Li blushed and reminded him, don't be silly, we have the family banquet to prepare for tomorrow. At that moment, Li Wan asked, have you made a decision? What are you planning to do with your younger siblings? Cho Ru Li replied, I'll either leave them in the capital or send them back to Jang Nan. Li Wan praised her, wow, my dear lady, you're being surprisingly merciful this time. Aren't you worried they might affect the Imperial throne? Cho Ru Li explained, of course it's not mercy. They were never meant to be candidates for the throne, so they can't threaten me. The next morning, during the family banquet, Cho Ru Xiao remarked, it seems we're fortunate to be able to return to the northern desert. This time, the Empress will surely pin some crime on us and then execute us directly. Cho Ru Hua chimed in, why not just say we want to go to the northern desert? Who knows, we might avoid the death penalty and even get some supplies. Cho Ru Xiao agreed, that's actually a good idea. Cho Ru Shuai added, let's take a gamble this time. Cho Ru Hua reminded, quiet, the Empress is coming. The three of them saw Li Wan and Cho Ru Li approaching with Chen Hai, taking their seats at the high table. Cho Ru Li addressed them, this time, I brought you back for two reasons, to see how you've been doing and to introduce you to my husband, who is also your brother-in-law. Li Wan greeted them, hello. Just as he finished speaking, Cho Ru Shuai shouted, Your Majesty, I volunteer to go to the northern desert. The two siblings beside him were startled, thinking, damn it, he got in first. Cho Ru Hua quickly added, Your Majesty, I can't let him have all the advantages. At that moment, Li Wan spoke up, you want to go to the northern desert, but Ru Li and I have discussed it and decided that you all will stay in the capital. Cho Ru Li said, sixth brother requests my approval, so the fourth and fifth siblings will stay. She then asked, fourth sister, what was it you wanted to say earlier? Cho Ru Hua raised her glass of wine and declared, I wanted to say that I agree with sixth brother. His idea is truly moving. I toast to you. Cho Ru Xiao also lifted her glass, adding, that's right. The Empress has granted permission without jest, you are indeed a role model for us all. Cho Ru Shuai cried, tears streaming down her face, thank you all. At that moment, a loud explosion echoed through the room. Chen Hai shouted, who dares to act recklessly here? Protect the Empress. Li Wan thought, why does this energy feel so familiar? Chen Hai lowered his head and said, the assassin has escaped. I failed in my duty and asked for the Empress's punishment. Li Wan replied, it won't escape, it's still in the palace. Chen Hai responded, I've searched carefully, but found no trace. Li Wan explained, that's because it isn't human. Follow me, and you'll understand. Chen Hai led everyone to the palace treasury, saying, this is the palace treasury, and the sword energy emanates from here. I suspect someone snuck in during the banquet to steal the royal treasures. Li Wan looked at a sword and said, it's not that complicated. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably its doing. He picked up the sword, and Cho Ru Li remarked, this treasured sword, if I remember correctly, was gifted by a swordsman. Cho Ru Hua commented, it's obvious this isn't an ordinary sword. Li Wan then asked, was it already like this when it was first brought to you? Cho Ru Li thought for a moment and replied, I remember it didn't glow at first. Li Wan concluded, so that's it. I know what this is now. He pondered, but why did it suddenly emit sword energy? Is it influenced by something? He handed the sword to Chen Hai, saying, little Chen, try to see if you can hold it. Chen Hai confidently replied, it's just a sword, how could I not hold it? However, as soon as he grasped the sword, he was hit by a surge of energy that injured him. He exclaimed in surprise, what is this? Li Wan took the sword back and remarked, just as I thought. Chen Hai, now pale with anger, said, of course it's your fault. You knew and still dared to trick me. Li Wan finally explained, it's not as you think. This sword, if I'm not mistaken, is the one the late emperor was wounded with. I turned it into the Jade Arrow Spirit Sword, and it's equipped with a special gemstone that can absorb energy. Previously, it embedded itself into me and took quite a bit of my energy. Now, it has gained 2 or 30% of my strength. Cho Ru-Li asked, so if you hold this sword, can it enhance your combat strength? Li Wan shook his head and replied, it wouldn't be effective. It can only release about 30% of my energy. It's not worth it compared to a regular iron sword, which could use 100% and still break. Cho Ruhua volunteered, then let me have it, I'll protect the Great Land. Cho Rushui jumped in, no, give it to me. I want to bravely fight against enemies in the northern desert. Cho Rushao insisted, no, let it be mine. Li Wan shattered their illusions, are you dreaming? A master like Chen Hai was injured just by touching it, you all might not survive. If you don't believe me, feel free to try. The three of them quickly abandoned the idea, saying, we give up. Li Wan thought, it seems it really has no effect at all. Since it carries my energy, it's normal for it to instinctively react to others. Cho Ru-Li casually touched it, causing Li Wan to jump. She said, can only you touch it? I've touched it several times before without any issues. Li Wan was startled, wait, you weren't injured, were you? Cho Ru-Li replied, you're being too slow. Besides, I didn't have any problems when I touched it before. Li Wan asked, did you not feel anything? Cho Ru-Li responded, I did feel something unusual. It felt like a wave of heat surged from my fingertips into my body, but it was quite comfortable. Li Wan analyzed, could it be that every time I helped you check your body, I used my energy to assist your circulation? Cho Ru-Li replied, isn't it also because you wanted to take advantage of the situation? I can't believe there's more to it. Li Wan chuckled, strengthening your body is the main goal, any advantage is just a bonus. At this rate, you might just become the most formidable emperor ever. Cho Ru-Li said, but holding it won't be of any use to me. Li Wan said, it can't be useless. If I'm not around, this sword will serve as your protective artifact. Cho Ru-Li asked, are you going to leave me? If you really do, then this truly becomes a divine artifact. But if you stay, having you by my side makes anywhere the safest place in the world? Hearing her words, Li Wan felt happy but still explained, it's not quite like that. If you carry it, the energy inside will actively protect you, and it can help your body grow stronger. It might even help certain areas grow a bit more. Cho Ru-Li picked up the sword and said, then I'll gladly accept it. After all, you won't always be by my side. Seeing her like that, Li Wan thought, she's definitely a woman, but why did this sword suddenly activate? I really can't figure it out. As night fell, Cho Ru-Li sat staring at the sword. Li Wan approached and said, change takes time to accumulate, it can't be effective right away. Cho Ru-Li blushed and replied, what are you talking about? I was just thinking, if some flying flame tries to take advantage of me now, should I just draw the sword and chop him? Li Wan then asked, Miss Chu, where's the trust between people? That's just a health check. Cho Ru-Li scoffed, humph, I've been carrying this sword all day, and it hasn't benefited you at all. Li Wan responded, in fact, when I check your body, it's just as effective. You're just looking for excuses to say you trust me. Early in the morning, Li Wan opened his eyes and heard a knock at the door. He sat up and said, it's still early, the roosters haven't even crowed yet, who's knocking? He got up to open the door and saw Li Zuj standing outside. With a serious expression, she said, it's bad news, master. Li Wan asked nonchalantly, what's wrong? Did you get fired? Li Zuj replied, master, you're wanted. Looking at the wanted poster with his own picture, Li Wan was taken aback. Huh? Who drew this? He crossed his arms and questioned, wanted for what? Everyone in Great Land knows I have Cho Ru-Li on my side, and this drawing doesn't even look like me. Li Zuj then explained, it's not Great Land issuing the wanted order, it's the northern desert that has put it out. She continued, I heard that in the northern desert, the image of you, master, is spread as that of a despicable creature with a contemptuous gaze, a nose pointed to the sky, and a mouth full of sharp teeth, like a monster. Upon hearing this, Li Wan exclaimed, nonsense. The wanted poster says they want me alive. They should come meet me in the northern desert and see for themselves. Why are they hunting me? I've never even been there, and I don't know the northern desert's ruler. Do they want to capture me to drain my yang energy and supplement their yin? Hearing this, Li Zuj chuckled, yang energy? The northern desert is indeed famous for its roasted goat. If you provoke them from a high position, wouldn't they just retaliate fiercely? Li Wan replied nonchalantly, whatever. It's better to ignore it. Right now, I just want to live a normal life with Ru-Li. Unless someone comes to the capital, I don't want to deal with them. Li Zuj turned away, saying, Master, you're getting more and more soft-hearted. If it were me, I would have knocked them down in one move already. Goodbye, I have work to do. Li Wan responded, keep up the good work, you still owe half a year's rent. Li Wan leisurely thought, it's rare to get up early today, so I'll prepare breakfast for her. No need for her to do it herself. Sitting at a street stall enjoying his breakfast, he sighed, it's been a while since I've gone out alone, I'm not quite used to it. He pondered, could this be a symptom of social anxiety? From now on, will I only be maintained by the beautiful empress and never see the sun? This kind of life won't attract any fans. After finishing his meal, he told the owner, hey, can I get another bowl of tofu pudding with a bit more sugar and vinegar? After holding the packaged breakfast in his hand, he was about to leave when he saw Chen Hai leading a group of people from the 6 panels gate running past. He thought to himself, huh? Chen Hai? So he called out, little Chen, what are you doing? He speculated, could it be that a bunch of people from the northern desert suddenly showed up in the capital to cause trouble? Chen Hai replied, don't call me little Chen. He explained, there's a sudden group of northern desert marauders causing a ruckus in the southern alley. How did you offend the northern desert lord? Li Wan changed the subject, saying, should I call you little Dian Dian then? He asked, so are you helping me deal with this trouble? Chen Hai dismissed it, saying, don't flatter yourself. I'm not helping you at all. I'm doing this for His Majesty and for the great land. If this trouble is caused by you, then you'll be the one to bear the losses. Li Wan replied, well, if that's the case, I have no money, so poor that even a beggar would shake his head in despair at me. Chen Hai exposed him, don't think I don't know anything. You have several shops and rental rooms. Even the great clan hasn't made as much as you. Even if you use that strange name Siru to hold the title. Li Wan laughed heartily, I truly have no money. Even though I have an inn, all the money goes to your majesty. Every month, I can only take home 8 coins. Chen Hai stared at Li Wan, as if he didn't believe it. Nonsense. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? Li Wan looked at Chen Hai for a moment and then said, alright, it's actually 7 coins. I still want to keep a bit of face, I'm afraid you'll laugh at me if I say it. Chen Hai no longer cared about the money issue, these people aren't that formidable. Let our 6 gates handle it. Li Wan laughed, say goodbye to Xiao Chen, and wait for my return so I can promote you for Ru Li. After Chen Hai left, Li Wan muttered to himself, it seems the people from the northern desert have infiltrated the city, but why do they want to stir up trouble everywhere? Doing so will quickly expose their movements, it's a bit foolish.